this morning? You? Okay. All right, and I'm going to call on Jessica to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would please bow with me. Thank you, Father, for the opportunity to serve you, to serve this county. We pray, Father, that you would strengthen us with wisdom to do that, and Father, with discernment to know your will in all things. We pray, Father, as we now are going to conduct the last regular meeting for this year, that, Father, we would always consider you in all that we do, and as we come back here again in January, Father, that we would have a renewed strength to always do what is right and what is prudent and what is acceptable in all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. Before we get started, I do want to point out that there may be people that wish to speak from the public this morning. So there's two forms. So I've gotten a little tutorial this morning. So the pages are in the back. If you wish to speak on a specific item, in other words, let's just use an example, the vacation rental item, item 3A. If you want to speak on that item, you would fill out a white piece of paper, and then we'll be able to speak with you on that, answer questions or whatever you'd like. If you just want to have a general shout out at the end of the meeting, we also have that. It's called Call to the Public. You would fill out the blue piece of paper. And the only reason we really want you to fill out the paper is so that we can kind of keep track of who wants to say something. It just makes things a little quicker and more orderly. Thank you for that. Okay, and we already have several filled out for item 3A, but we're not there yet. We're going to start off with presentations, item 2A, presentation by Ben Tomas, Speaker of the House of Representatives, regarding the appointment of John Castaneda to the Arizona House of Representatives Joint Study Committee on Statewide Animal Control Standards. And Josh Beck.
Learning about animal control over the last year, I've really gotten to see what J.C. Castaneda does as the manager of that department. Even more so, seeing him at the state association and some of the different things he's done when he was animal control officer of the year. So I wanted to make sure to call him up here to kind of give him a chance for the board to see this latest achievement, which is Speaker of the House put J.C. Castaneda on a committee looking at animal control in the state to make sure that all the different counties and cities and anybody that does animal control is kind of aligning up and that we're doing things consistently across the state. I personally think, seeing what JC's done here in Gila County, that this is a pretty good privilege because, you know, they see what he's done here and how he carries business in Gila County for a rural community. You know, he works with people across New Mexico to get dogs out of here. We work with tons of different kind of animal shelters and stuff to make sure that we're not euthanizing dogs that don't need to be euthanized. As you can imagine, and I know everybody here on the board with myself, I share emails of praise and emails when people have concerns in the community. One of the things that's hard about being an animal control officer is it's kind of hard to make everybody happy. It's kind of the nature of the job that he has. So when we have chances to bring him up here and kind of give him some kudos, I try to make sure we do that. And I just wanted to bring him up here today and let everyone know that he's been on this committee. It's been running for a few weeks now. It's going successfully, and if anybody has any questions at JC or comments, we'd love to hear them.
Are you going to call him up?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, like Josh was saying, we've been doing this committee for the last 3 weeks. We've been working on standards for animal care and control in Arizona. A lot of these standards deal with bigger animal control agencies where they have vets on staff. Here in Gila County, in rural areas, we don't have vets on staff, so we can't, send our animals right to spay and neuter. We have to wait till we have vets on when our vet is available for spay and neutering. And so we're trying to get ways to get vets to come out to rural communities to help us with spay and neuter. Another one, a big thing that we're working on is making sure that animal control agencies are using social media to get animals back to their loved ones. And here in Gila County, we already do that. We've been doing that for several years now. Another big issue was inmate labor, and they wanted to make for sure that animal control agencies are trying to use inmate labor to help with cleaning of the facilities, which helps out with staff and staff being, just busy all the time, where you can have inmates come in and they will help out with all the cleaning. So that's what we're doing right now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we really appreciate all that you do. Supervisor Humphrey, anything?
Yeah, this committee that Ben Thompson, Speaker of the House of Representatives, appointed you to, is that a new committee, or is that a committee that's been there that you just got appointed to?
I think they've had that committee at the beginning of the year, and then they introduced some animal control agencies. So I think myself, Audra Gilmore from Pinal County, we went on at the same time.
Okay, well, I'm very proud of you to have the attention from the Speaker of the House to put you on this, because from working with you in the past, I know you have a great love for animals, so I can't, and you've been at your job for quite some time, so I can't think of anybody that I would rather see on that committee other than you. So we're proud to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Jason.
appreciate it.
Supervisor Klein.
JC, congratulations. It's good to see you on that committee, and I second everything Tim said. You do a good job, so really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're really proud of you, and I think my hand is deserved.
Thank you.
And I'd like to picture.
Okay, of course.
So,
I suppose we can.
let's do that.
Here.
Good, Melissa.
Nah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Count three. 1, 2, 3.
We always have, always great to see how great of employees we have in the county. Yes, sir, James.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point out, in addition to that, that I appreciate the support of the Board of Supervisors, that in the last few years, a whole new animal control facility that is state-of-the-art, that you approved that and has been up and operating for a number of years. So I appreciate, I think, Mr. Castaneda's appointment has to do with your support as Board of Supervisors. So thank you so much for your support of animal control in Gila County.
Yeah, thank you, James. Okay, so I'm excited about our next presentation as well. Item 2B, presentation of Discover Gila County, the county's tourism and marketing initiative. So, Cameron,
Thank you, Cameron.
we'll hand it over to you. And I know there's several here that are with you. If you want to introduce, you probably already have a plan to do that.
Supervisors and staff, thank you very much. Yes, if I could have everybody that is here on behalf of Discover Gila County, just please stand up. So this
Very
is
good.
the organization that actually the board of directors actually that we have with Discover Gila County. Both chambers of commerce are represented. We've got James Brizzy, who's here from an unincorporated part of the county. So thank you all for driving down here and being here today support Discover Gila County. We couldn't do this without them, so.
Yes,
We
thank
are,
you.
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you.
We are super excited actually to share with you what we've been up to this year. It's been a very busy year, and some of the numbers just don't lie. You're going to see that here today. I'm going to talk really quickly about some of the marketing results that we've seen in the last 5 years. If you remember, we started last year with the big video promotion campaign. I'm going to share with you some of the stats that came off of that campaign, and then new things that we're getting ready to launch in 2024. So with that, the very first thing, I'm excited to report, and you probably already know this, but we actually won our first national award for this program from the National Association of Counties this year, who recognized it as a pillar for what it's doing in our community and actually setting the bar throughout the United States. So that's kind of cool. The next thing is what I tried to do is give you guys a quick synopsis of where we have come from. And so this next slide here, let me move it on, shows what has happened over the last 5 years, basically, as far as website traffic goes. In 2019, we had about 22,000 visitors that came to the site that very first year. This year, we're expecting, and we're almost there, 223,000. So we're growing, and you can see the curve that we're growing at is pretty impressive. We've had 547,000 unique visitors and almost 4 million page views that have been viewed on the site. So moving on to the next thing here, one of the biggest things that we set out to do was to get Discover Gila County. That was one of our biggest objectives, was to get us recognized on Google. And I'm proud to report now that most of our traffic comes from Google. In fact, in 2023, 81% of our traffic came from Google, and that is 91% higher than other sites like ours in the industry. So we're killing it on Google right now. Our site has over 500 pages that rank in the top 5 spots on the first page in over 73% of our keyword terms. So that means if you do a Google search in just about all of our keyword terms, we're on the first page, which is huge. And that is all free traffic that is coming to Discover Gila County. And I did a quick, you can see if I can figure out the pointer here. Right there. Maybe. So the little graph right here actually shows just a few of the various different keywords, like Fossil Creek, we're number 1, Globe, Arizona, number 3, Pine, Arizona, number 1, and on down the list there. And there's about 1,000 of those keyword terms that we look at on a daily basis. Our visitors spend almost 7 minutes per session on our website, and that puts us in the top 86% of tourism websites in North America. So compared to other sites that do what we do, we're in the upper echelon of that. Moving on to our social strategy. This is probably one of the reasons we've been so successful. And this is a really important slide. I keep forgetting here to move this on, but you'll see here how we stack up with other major tourism related programs in the state of Arizona. Flagstaff is one of the top, and Prescott, Mesa, Tempe, and the big thing here is if you look at the right column, and I wish I could figure out how to, oh, there we go, yeah. So this column right here with the green shows how many new followers those organizations are adding on a weekly basis. Notice that we are adding close to 300 compared to everybody else. So we're growing, even after 5 years, we're growing faster than anybody else that we're tracking. Over 33% engagement rate for 2023, and according to Google, typically engagement rates are less than 1% in the tourism industry. That is somebody that's liking, commenting, or sharing on our Facebook or Instagram posts. So they are engaging with us far, they're almost 33 times greater than other programs out there. This last year, or actually since the start of the program, we've had almost 9 million people see our posts on Facebook. Total people who have seen our posts in 2023 is almost 2.8 million. And then this is kind of cool, we're almost at 20,000 followers on Facebook, which is a huge feat in 5 years. Instagram, we're almost at 10,000 followers. So we're starting to really influence a lot of people with the things that we're sharing about Gila County. This is one of the things that I'm most proud of, is the video campaign that we did last year. We told you guys that we were going to produce 3 commercials, and we did that. And they were the Tonto National Monument State Park, Tonto Natural Bridge State Park, and Beshbagala. And we launched those actually on channel, through streaming Hulu, and we did a partnership with Channel 3 and Channel 5. That generated 1.5 million people that saw those advertisements during the Super Bowl, the Cactus League, spring training, WM golf tournament, Barrett Jackson, and some of the other major events that were going on in the valley is when we were running this video campaign. It added almost 15,000 new visitors to the site, to our website. And this is the cool one, is almost 93.7% of the people that started watching that commercial finished watching it. So there was a lot of people that were exposed to Gila County this last year through those video promotions. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. So this is the probably most important slide that I'm going to share with you now. If there's one thing you take away from my presentation, it's today. All these numbers that I'm going to present to you are not my numbers. They're from the Arizona Office of Tourism. So they've been verified, and this is a pretty cool story. In 2022, the direct spending in Gila County coming off of tourism dollars is up 3.8%. Employment associated with tourism is up 7.3%. Tax revenue associated with tourism is up 4.9%, and earnings for people that are employed through the tourism industry is up 10.6%. What that means to the people that live here in Gila County is that $1,280 is offset because of that tourism spending that is coming into our county for each person that has a household here. The Tonto Natural Bridge State Park, we saw in 2022, the traffic there was 124,614, and in 2023 through September, we were already at a little over 103,000. So we're expecting those numbers to continue to go up. Tonto National Monument visits, same thing. Through May, we had already seen 19,000 compared to last year's 31. So we're expecting those numbers to continue to climb. So if there's one thing that I want to show you, though, that I am most proud of, is this bar right here. This is the last 25 years of direct spending that's come into Gila County specifically. If you look at the last 2 years, those are the highest direct travel spending years in the past 25 years, and most likely ever. So those numbers don't lie. They are showing that more and more money is getting spent here in Gila County because of this program. So let's talk about the new opportunities. Things to look forward to in 2024. We created three new commercials, and we are going to do this again. Phoenix is actually the host in 2024 to the NCAA Final Four this year, and so there'll be a lot of people that are coming into town for that. So we've actually gone out and produced 6 new videos, or 3 new videos, 2 various different versions of them that will be showcased during that Final Four, the spring training on ABC and through Hulu. And then, kind of exciting, because we've hit 5 years, it's time to redesign our website. And so we are in the process right now of developing a brand new, up-to-date, state-of-the-art website that will now be built on WordPress, which will give us all the technologies and things that we need moving forward. So we're excited about that. We also felt like as a board it was time to do a relaunch of this program to update people on what has happened over the last 5 years. And so we will actually be conducting in January and February some stakeholder meetings to get feedback from folks in leadership positions. And then in April, we will be doing a brand new relaunch of Discover Gila County with the new website and all the videos and all that kind of stuff. So, moving on to the final things here. It's really cool actually when you can show up at one of your destinations and have an experience like this. I want to just read this real quick. Following our Discover Gila County Board meeting in San Carlos in March of 2023, DGC board member Cody Gosen generously guided us through the enchanting Super Bloom at Peridot Mesa. Upon arrival, a car displaying a Minnesota license plate caught my eye. Cody, being the gracious host, approached them and inquired about their experience obtaining a permit. They politely replied they found it to be a straightforward process. Intrigued, I couldn't resist asking, "You guys are quite a far way from home. How did you come across this stunning place?" Much to my amazement, the woman responded, "There's this incredible website loaded with directions, permit information, and captivating images. We stumbled upon a promotion about this spot on their Facebook page." Eager to know more, I asked if she remembered the website's name. With a smile, she swiftly located it on her phone and exclaimed, "It's called Discover Gila County." The synchronicity left us chuckling. She enthusiastically declared, "We are absolutely sharing this gem with all our friends back home." That is a true experience that was totally not planned for, so it was actually really kind of cool. What are our businesses saying? Here's a brand new business actually that was just started last year up in Strawberry, and this was also something that was just, we get a lot of this kind of stuff that comes our way, and we felt it was important to share with you guys because you don't get to hear it as much as we do. But this is from Brian Harold, who's the lodge at 5600 up in Pine, Arizona. And he said, "I wanted to write and emphasize how important Discover Gila County is to all tourism-based businesses in Gila County. We are a small county with a ton to offer, from nature, lakes, cool little towns with amazing food, shops, and lodging. It is no secret that the tourism business is difficult, and we as a small lodge absolutely rely on and benefit from working with Discover Gila County and what they do to promote in our fantastic county. We are within 2 hours of 5 million people who clamor to get away from the hectic city once in a while. Gila County is getting better by the day, and Discover Gila County is our voice. This program is what is vital to all of us. Thank you for all you do." So that's a local business owner that we didn't ask for that. He just sent it to us, so we felt really cool about that. So I promised I was going to try to keep this within 15 minutes. I do have those 6 videos that I would love to show you at least one.
Sure.
If you want to see all of them, you can tell me and we'll watch them all.
Okay.
But we want to at least see the one. So, okay, so let's do.
I think we're going to want to see all of them, okay?
Wild adventure awaits at Roosevelt Lake. Feel Arizona's heartbeat as you
Part of it is the music and
In Gila County, a wild adventure awaits at Roosevelt Lake. Feel Arizona's heartbeat as you cast your line and reel in the catch of a lifetime. Glide on cobalt blue waters, chasing sunlight's dance. Stories are woven, bonds are forged around campfires, and nature's untamed beauty surrounds you. As day turns to night, witness nature's artistry in the sky. Discover Gila County at Roosevelt Lake and explore the wild.
So remember, these are 30-second commercials that will be played during these various different events. So let's view.
Explore the heart of Arizona's grandeur atop the awe-inspiring Mogollon Rim, where endless wonder awaits. Marvel at the 2,000-foot drop, taking in panoramic views of the lush pine forest below. Listen closely as ancient whispers echo through the rock formations, carried by the wind from ages past. Immerse yourself in a symphony of outdoor adventures where lakes, campgrounds, and trails harmonize with Arizona's wilderness. Explore your wild side. Come discover Gila County.
This is for everybody. Try to catch up. We are here. Let me introduce to you. Try to catch up. We are here. That future hit. Are you ready? That future hit.
So there's a fast version for social media, and then there's what we call a story version, and you're seeing both of those right now. So this is the Roosevelt Lake.
Born for adventure, made to run free. Days we'll remember, with the world to see. Always ready to run when the wild's calling. Ready to run and we won't stop. We were born for adventure. Born for adventure.
And this one was really fun. This was the winery. We looked at all the wineries throughout Gila County. This one turned out probably the best.
From tall pines to large saguaros, Gila County's wine country is wild nature on display. Bruzy Vineyard blends innovation with tradition, while Tierra Madre Vineyards harmonizes history with Arizona's beauty. Wagon Vineyard and Estate unites community and craftsmanship. Here, time stands still. You'll hear Arizona's heartbeat in every glass. It's not just a visit. It's a profound connection to the land where every sip embodies our spirit. Come discover Gila County and explore the wild.
This is the best.
Here we go. All we need is an open road and a chance to see a never-ending world that's beautiful. Here we go, with the sunlight on our skin. It's a brand new day. It's ours to take, and we will let it in. This is where the adventure begins.
So those are the 6 new videos that we will broadcast this year. And that's the end of my presentation. I think I did it in 15 minutes.
You did great. You did really great. I loved him. Supervisor Humphrey.
Well, it goes way back with me.
Yeah.
I can remember when I was on the Industrial Development Authority years ago, and we presented this to the supervisors. At that time, it was Pastor, Marcanti, and Martin, and they didn't care to pursue it. I believe Supervisor Martin very much wanted to pursue it, but the other two didn't. And so when I and Supervisor Klein was elected, we thought it'd be a great idea, and I think Supervisor Martin was the one that gathered you up and said, "Hey, I got a future for you."
She did.
And she was very much into national, and she told you she wanted to, and so
We got it. Yeah,
proud of you for getting that for her.
I feel you.
But anyway, it's great to plant a seed and watch where it goes. I thank you very much. for have brought this to Gila County the way you have and promote it the way you have for the accomplishments that it's come with. So hats off to you. Thank you very, very much.
Supervisor Klein.
Cameron, I want to thank you and the whole group for doing this. You know, there was a lot of discussions when we started this. I know that, you know, from the legal side, we had things to go over for the money that was involved, and even though we all couldn't help but expect it would help our constituents and our business people, we had no way of proving it. You know, and now being where we're at and with all the awards that you guys have won to boot, and the difference that I just see just in the local communities on any given day is like night and day. And so having this for Gila County, I would say for once, and maybe quite a while, I mean, we had some money go to the right place. And it has really helped our people on the ground. And you know, when you go back to the COVID times when things were shutting down and people were worried about tax revenues and all that, and budgets seemed to be falling except for the grant money, ours never did. We stayed up there. And that had to do with Discover Gila County. That's what kept us up there, you know, and so going forward, I can't help but be excited about what we're gonna see and what's gonna take place. I kind of have to question you too. I mean, how much better can it get than where we are today? It's like you guys have come a long way.
Flagstaff is still way up here.
Oh, we got to
and
beat them.
So
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to get.
Yeah, we got to get
way
ahead of
up
them.
there.
So yeah, so that's good.
We got our people in sight.
We're ahead of Prescott though, aren't we?
We're getting there.
Okay.
They feel us coming. Let's put
Okay.
it that way. So.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for this. It's really good, and it's a really good thing.
Thank you.
It really is. So thank you, Cameron. Thank you, everyone. I wasn't there in the beginning, but it's so easy to support this, and I'm proud to support it. The charts and stuff that you show, I know they're just numbers, but the cost versus the benefit is just, it benefits Gila County tens of millions of dollars to do this. I don't know how you have enough time in the day to do it, but for the last 5 years, you've almost doubled every year, doubled from the previous year. Seems like an impossible trajectory to continue, but you're already talking about revamping and doing a new website and everything, so I have no doubt it's going to keep growing exponentially.
We think it will. In fact, I wanted to share this last thing and thank you all three because you've all been huge supporters of this. We couldn't do it without the three of you. But we're hoping that these videos will allow us to now go after a new set of awards with the Arizona Office of Tourism. There is a program that if we can show the return on these videos, we can submit this whole campaign to them, and that could be a huge feather in our cap to see that win. So last year we had, like I said, 1.5 million people that saw this, saw our advertisements, and we tracked every little piece of data that we could. And this year we're going to actually submit it to them, so hopefully we can get some more recognition for that. So, thank you all very much.
James, did you have anything? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd care to do so, we have a check for financial support for Discover Gila County that would appreciate if you would have a photo with
Yeah, that'd be
Discover
great.
Gila County and the board for Discover Gila County, if you want to make that presentation at this point.
Okay.
Good job, guys. Very good job.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's move on now to item 3A. This will have a public hearing portion after the presentation. And it's for information, discussion, and action to adopt Gila County Vacation Rental and Short-Term Rental Ordinance number 2023-08. Randy Plummer.
Morning, Chairman, Supervisors. I know this is a subject that pretty much you're on one side or the other of this process. And I just want to state that currently Gila County does not regulate short-term rentals. This ordinance establishes the process of regulating new and existing short-term rental properties. These regulations are put in place both for the safety of the property owner, the guest staying at the short-term rental, and the benefit of the community in which the property is located. I'm going to hit the highlights that this will be a yearly permit, and there's a process for this. There's emergency contact requirements that a representative would have to be on the site if the sheriff, fire department was to call them. There's also the neighborhood notification, which is the neighbors next to you, across the street from you, and diagonally across the street from you. There's a process for verifying penalties and violations. There's ways to revoke their license or suspend their license. There are sex offender background checks. State has put on a requirement for short-term rentals for insurance, and that these would all have to be displayed in their advertisements. There's, like you said, you're for or against, depends on which side you're on, and that's fine. And I received from the clerk of the board yesterday 2 emails that I know you were probably provided, but I didn't know if you want me to read them into the record or not, but I will tell you it's Jeff and Susan Boynes from Payson, Arizona, and Carolyn and Larry Epler, also in Payson. So if you'd like me to read them in the record, I'll be more than happy to.
So Randy, the Eplers are here and wish to speak, so
Okay.
let's forego the reading of that. That's 4 pages long. The one here from Jeff and Susan Boyce, who are also on Gibson Ranch Road. Would it be all right if I just briefly stated some of the items that are in the
Absolutely,
letter
sir.
without having to read it? It's rather lengthy as well. They said that they are in favor, I believe, of the ordinance, the dirt roads. There's lots of dust. There's vehicles that are speeding, loud parties, drugs, quads doing donuts, spin-outs, and it's gotten out of control. They're basically running motels in our private neighborhood. So I hope I didn't not represent that to its fullest, but I believe that that gives you a sense of how they feel about it.
And I will tell you, this is our 3rd public meeting, and I have met with several people at our counter. So far, I haven't had anyone outright against it. I've had people who want it to be stricter, but again, we're following state statute, and I will tell you, we plagiarized a little. We used a couple other jurisdictions' formats, and took a little good parts out of each of them and applied to this one. I think it's a pretty good ordinance. Again, there are things that we just can't enforce, you know. Some of the statements are, oh, we should always be able to go into a residence whenever we want, and that just, you know, that's not legal. But there are a lot of things, and I will tell you, this is our first stab at this. I'm assuming lately it seems that the state has been modifying this on a yearly progression, and next year we may be back for you if there's something in there that we think we need to do. But I do think that we do not currently enforce this, and I think it's important that we would move forward with some version of this if you have any concerns about what we are currently doing. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Randy. Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions, but I'll comment after the. Okay.
Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Randy. So I am for a permit system like this, but I'm also for doing it right. And so by that, I mean, unfortunately, no matter what we deal with, we have a handful of bad actors and we have a big handful of people doing a good job. And so to me, it's like, I don't want to see us hammering any of our folks that are doing a good job just to get to these bad actors. And so there's parts of this that, so let me just ask you first off, like a sex offender, like, so if somebody wants to rent a house or whatever it is, then the owner of that short-term rental would have to do the background check on them? Is that-
Correct. A lot of times the organization, so if you run through VRBO, they automatically do that because it's a state requirement. And they would provide that. If they're not renting through VRBO or any of the organizations that would do that, then they would do the background check themselves. There's several organizations that you can call into and can provide you the information that you need. So it's not a over cumbersome process, but you will have to make a phone call and follow up on that as the provider of the facility. And I agree with you, sir. This is not to hammer the goods to get to the bads or vice versa. Really, the goods probably already have everything that's in this ordinance in their process. They're just going to come fill out a form with us. That we're going to ask for that contact information, those kind of things, and make sure we have it on there. Such as occupant loads, you know. So if you're having 45 people at a 2-bedroom house, and there's probably going to be a problem there, and the sheriff may get called out, the sheriff will be able to look that up and know that there really is only supposed to be 4, 6, 8 people, whatever the occupant load is. And the occupant load will be based on the septic system that is provided, that was permitted with that facility. And the good ones aren't going to have those issues. Like I said, we've had several comments. I think our first meeting, we had people that said they can't even get into their driveways, can't get into their houses, because 45 people park on the streets and cross over their driveways, and they literally are held hostage. That's not a goal that we want to pursue here. But if you're parking on the site and you're a good neighbor, you're not going to see us much. You know, you pull your trash cans in instead of letting them get dumped over by the animals where all the neighbors are picking up the trash. You know, I don't see us coming out there, and we're not trying to be heavy-handed in all this. Like I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm betting 90% are good and are good neighbors and are trying to just make a living or whatever they're doing with their extra facilities. But it's 10%. I mean, it's kind of like that way, I think, across the board in a lot of areas.
It is.
That the 10% is the problem. You know, just like the sheriff, they get the 10%. They're not really out there to do anything with the 90%, and we won't be either.
So Randy, I had a discussion earlier with Michael, and we're talking, I was kind of running a little bit late this morning, but didn't have a lot of time to talk about it. I've went through this, and one thing that was brought up when we talked about is that on the short-term rental deal is now going to become a business, basically, or is a business. And so some of these deals in here, other places like motels have to deal with it, whatnot like that. But like this one on the permit issuance and denial part of it, A through F has to do with mostly background checks of one sort or another. Motels don't deal with that. They don't do a background check on me when I go in and check on a motel. So why? And I'm not saying this is bad. I want this out in the open. But why where does this come from? Does this, something like this come from statute? Is that where it's coming from?
Yeah, pretty much everything that we're going through here is from state statute. Now, a hotel motel is in a business-oriented area, a C2 commercial area.
Yeah,
And you're right, they aren't required to do a lot of these things, but this is where we're putting, and I agree with you, this is a business. And this is a pseudo, I don't know what the exact words, but hotel motel in the middle of a neighborhood, a quiet family neighborhood where kids are playing next door. So they don't want, the state has put in the safeguards by allowing this. And remember, we can't stop short-term rentals. The state does not allow us to say no. So anyone can make a short-term rental.
right.
But they put in these safeguards so that if you are putting these in the neighborhoods, which is where they're at, and it could be a dense neighborhood, it could have, houses, downtown Pine. You're got a lot of houses around you, and you got kids out there, and you got everything else out there. So they do want to keep the sex offenders out of there. We're in a commercial neighborhood. I don't know the real reasoning that would follow that, but they're more transient too. Where on a short-term rental, you might be there longer than a hotel motel. You have more room to do stuff that, if you're the bad actor, to do stuff you probably shouldn't be doing that you would do when you're out on the main street and main highway. One of the big complaints we get a lot of is the traffic and the side-by-sides
Right.
and dust and all
Right.
that stuff. If they're a licensed side-by-side, they're required to meet our laws, and that's traffic that the sheriff and all them would have to deal with. That's not really something that we can go out and say, oh, you can't take your legal vehicle out on this dirt road. But we can talk with the owners when they do that and say the people you're renting to are becoming a nuisance to your neighbors. So we can address some of that.
So I'm not saying that I'm opposed to any of this, but what I want to really get at is this. Whether it's me, you, or anybody else, we sometimes make mistakes, we miss stuff. So if somebody, if this was to go through and this was to happen and an owner missed something on a sex offender, maybe it's hid, they didn't come up with it, they didn't see it, whatever. Sex offenders are supposed to notify wherever they go. And, but say that didn't happen and then later it did and then we go back on them. Well, they've tried. They've tried to do what they needed to do, but just missed something. So what would happen from our standpoint? We're not gonna pull their license if somebody makes an honest mistake and misses something, are you?
No. As a matter of fact, they get 3 strikes. So let's say that they made the call, came back, no sex offender. They did their due diligence. And if the guy ended up figuring a way, and I don't want to give any legal
Right.
things here, figuring out a way to use a different name, I don't know what it would imply there. But they did their due diligence. We would consider that they did that. They didn't make the call, and there was a sex offender there. We could do with the first fine, the first violation. Say, hey, you really do got to call these guys. You got to follow up on this. Document that you called at this time and date, or whatever the requirements are. Then they would get that first fine. Like I said, it's after the 3rd fine that we can get in there to revoke a license.
But something that is as simple as an honest mistake or they couldn't find it, it wasn't there with what they had available, that wouldn't even be a strike, right?
No, sir.
Okay, so going on, I want to talk about insurance, $500,000 liability insurance. So I know we're going to hear from some people here pretty quick on the public deal, and it's going to be really good to hear. But I believe there's some of these platforms like VRBO and whatnot that when you sign up with them, they have an insurance policy that you get by signing up, right?
Correct. Matter of fact, our states that it basically, I'm not seeing the exact wording, but If the VRBO provides that insurance, then it's done.
Okay, so we would not require anything
Not an
additional
additional amount, no.
and whatnot?
This is just the 500,000 the VRBO already provides. Now, if you're not going through VRBO and you're just renting this out Facebook, then you do have to have the 500,000 on your house or on your property, which you probably already have close to that anyway. I know I do on my property. So they would have to show that they have insurance on the property.
Okay. So the next question that I have too is one of the means of gauging how many people are in a house is per bedroom. I think you said by state standards, they figure 2 people per bedroom.
Per the wastewater standards,
Okay.
which are covered under ADQ and all those places, it's usually 2 per bedroom is what the system's designed for. You can have a bigger system, but you know, a lot of these are the older homes that weren't over-designed and are probably under
Right.
the requirements now. So if you have a 3-bedroom house, then yes, the way, and it's not a hard and fast rule that it's 2 per bedroom. All this will be reviewed by wastewater. So when the application comes in, we're gonna show them what they got. They look up the wastewater system. They see the size that they have, say, okay, they're good for 10 people. Then we would allow 10 people on that property.
So what I'm saying, okay, so I like that a little bit as far as having some common sense into this. One thing that I would say, even me personally, if I've got a 3-bedroom house and I have a long weekend and I've got 4 extra people coming up to stay for the weekend, they're gonna stay there. And so where it would be 6, it would actually be more than that for the 3 that were there. So from a county standpoint, to have that flexibility, I think will be a very good thing. And I would not like to see us not have that. One of the issues with short-term rentals is the fact you got a 3-bedroom house and there's 30 people staying in it. That's one of the complaints that we had before. You know, they're absolutely overmaxed. And I see that. But from a common sense standpoint, if I've got 3 bedrooms, I could probably hold 10, 12 people for a weekend. It's not gonna hurt anything. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And so to have the flexibility, I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with the wastewater folks telling us what we're gonna do here, just to be honest with you. I think we need to really look at that pretty hard and have something that's a little bit more down for that. 'Cause I'm just saying, now I have no way of knowing, but I'm just saying they're gonna be a little bit more on the conservative side of numbers. When you really look at these, most of these short-term rentals, these houses are used for 2, 3, maybe 4 nights, you know, and they're gone. And then they may sit vacant for 2 weeks before they get used. So I think there needs to be some common sense in that as well. There's a part in there about the traffic and the vehicles. If there's a number on these places, depending on how big of a house there is, that will help. You know, one of the things I've been talking to some folks too, is that if you had in there no parking on the streets, you know, that's one of the things that I've heard personally in my town meetings when I'm around, is these places, of course, they're packed to the gills with people, that's too much, but the streets are plugged up. You can't get through the streets, you know? So if the cars actually had to park on the property, like on the driveway or in whatever it is, every house has a driveway.
So you
or
know
some
that is
parking.
in the ordinance,
Okay,
that the people they're renting it to, they're supposed to be able to park their vehicle on the property. Now, you know, you come up here for relatives, right? I mean, well, not always, but come up here for relatives and you have 4 people in the house and all of a sudden 2 relatives come over or 4 relatives come over. We can't regulate that they can't park on the street. We're just saying the people that are responsible for renting the house are supposed to have room on the site to park their vehicles.
okay.
So the neighbor, you know, your relatives can come over, they can park in the street, anyone really can. Can't be a nuisance, you know, and block other people's properties and that kind of thing. And that, we hear that
All the time.
all the time. You know, like I said, I've shared that we've have a 3-bedroom house that does corporate events and advertises it'll sleep 45 people. that's an issue. You know, we're more concerned about safety. You know, if you know, every bedroom has a egress door going out in the hallway, also has emergency egress. It has a certain size window so people can get out, and actually that size of window is for a fireman to get in there with all of his gear to get people out. So we have people that try to use closets and say they're a bedroom, and they have none of that. So no, I wouldn't want, if there's 6 people that are, you know, there's 3 bedrooms and there's 6 people, and they're trying to throw people down in the garage or down in, I would think that is a bad thing, because there is life safety standards that are not being met. And not everyone knows when you go rent someplace, what the rules are. You know, I mean, building department would, but as a normal person, they would not know that, oh, a garage, there's a bed down here. This is nice and cozy. They got, you know, they put a fireplace in, but there's no ventilation. You know, those kind of things where that's what we're going to be dealing with, looking at a little bit. Now, I will tell you, our first year, I don't see us making site inspections on every house, but I would think in the future, as we figure out really what the load is of all this, that we will be. You know, I will tell you, I went through this. It was more for rehab locations. We went and inspected every one and set an occupant load and ran through a lot less problems than we had before. Like I said, if we can, we really don't know, to be honest with you, all of the problems that can occur, may occur. Again, I see us coming before you later on, maybe to revise this ordinance, to modify it better, take something out that didn't work. You know, I don't want to sit here and tell you this is perfect. I don't think there is anything that's going to be perfect.
Right.
But, you know, this will all go through code enforcement, and code enforcement goes through me, and people will have, and a hearing officer, and people will have, if it went to a hearing officer, we tell them what we see, they tell them what they say. It's the hearing officer's decision. So it's not anyone that's going to, just because I said paint the house green, it's green. You know, they all have their opportunity to respond to anything that gets said by a neighbor, by us, by anyone, and they explain that to a hearing officer, and if the hearing officer thinks they're correct, he makes his ruling and we're done.
So Randy, let's talk about the inspections just a little bit.
Okay?
So, however we come out with this, because we'll come out with something, I feel certain, but I want it to work. And I don't want us to be so intrusive that it's going to drive people out of this. So how do we make sure that that doesn't happen?
Intrusive is a definition that is decided by each person. Just that we're there could be intrusive considered intrusive by someone. We're going to be looking for life safety items. I mean, I don't really care what color anything is. You got new flooring, you're doing cabinets. But where you show me your bedrooms, are they life safety? Did you put a fireplace in? Maybe or may not have been with a permit. And is that safe? Do you have a CO2 detector in the house? Is there a fire extinguisher in the house? You know, the same things that go through on a hotel motel, they look at all that stuff. Most of the time they make them sprinkle the buildings. We're not looking at any of that. It's still a single family home. It is an R3. And where I see there could be problems, because we have some of these where people try to turn the tough shed into a residence and they rent that out. Yes, during an inspection, that's going to get caught, and that's not probably going to go over, and they're going to be upset. You know, for some reason, people believe because they haven't been caught for a while that it's okay and it's grandfathered in because they've had this tough shed for 10 years. It was never permitted to be a residence. It never met those requirements. You know, most of that stuff usually will be done without a permit, BWAP'd. And would we turn our eye to that? No, because that is a life safety item. But if you're in a house and you were permitted and you built the house, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and it met code then, and you've been there ever since, we're not gonna go through and make you change your electrical system and put arc fault in or stuff. Smoke detectors, we would look for, but nowadays you can put battery operated ones with a 10-year battery on them. So, it's not a overly intrusive, in my opinion. But again, just because I'm on a site, some people consider that intrusive. So I can't say to you that we won't be intrusive, but I can tell you that this is not our main thing. This is not the only thing our department will be doing. But we'll look at the life safety items pretty closely.
Randy, thanks. I got more questions, but I want to hear from the public when they all get a chance to speak, and I'm sure we're going to have quite the discussion on this today, which I welcome. I think that's great. And like I said, I just want to get it right before we do this, so.
And like I said, I think a lot of this, they're usually on one side or the other. It's not, there's very few people that are straight down the middle. They're either for it or against it.
So to be honest with you, I've heard so much opposed to short-term rentals from residents, from neighborhoods, complaining about the parties, the speeding, the overcrowding, the trash, the kids turned loose on a four-wheeler. That's the now babysitter for the kids. That there's no doubt we have to do something. I just want to make sure that when we do it, it's right. And also, I wouldn't mind seeing in this that we give it 6 months or a year, and then we readdress it again to see how it is doing. So that's something I want to throw out there as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll let you have it now for me.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Klein. So I support the ordinance, even though I've received some complaints that we're expanding government, we're growing government. This ordinance, though, I believe we need to have something in place without it being overly intrusive. I agree with Supervisor Klein. We should have something, and we should all know, the public should know, and we should know, that if something is not working within the ordinance, we still have the ability to make those adjustments. We can add or subtract things in and out of the ordinance through another board meeting until it fits Gila County the way we all would want it to fit.
And I believe legal would agree. We can do that anytime. I mean, it doesn't have to be 3 months, 6 months, a year. If you were hearing from the constituent, this really isn't working, and we can articulate what that problem is or is, we can come back anytime and work on correcting that. None of these are set in stone. They're always changing. You're voted on, and you want to see a change, then we will look at that change and see if we can legally do it. Like I said, I've had people that want me to do stuff that just isn't allowed by state statute. So no, there's some things we probably couldn't fix in doing that, but this is not set in stone. It's not, we can always come back at your pleasure and make modifications as we need to.
Thank you, Randy. Supervisor Humphrey, anything at this juncture?
I'll still wait until after the public, thank you.
Okay. I'd like to open it up now then to the public hearing section. And I have several pieces of paper. I think I'm going to call Janae Sarin, is it? Sarine.
Yes.
And your address is in Scottsdale?
It is.
Okay.
It
So
is.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Go ahead. We're going to try and hold it to about 3 minutes, if
Sure,
that's all right.
sure.
Okay.
I appreciate
Thank you.
that. And obviously, we all can see from the tourism increase, this is going to be not only, it's going to be more of a problem, not less of a problem. I do agree it needs to be addressed, but as Superintendent Klein said, I'd like it to be reasonable. I'd like to have it workable. I myself, we own 2 vacation rentals in Strawberry within a mile of each other. One is 4,000 square feet, and the other is about 3,000 square feet. They're both on VRBO, but we also have a website for one of them. To impose a 2-person per bedroom limitation on a bedroom that's 4, 5, maybe even 600 square feet is kind of ridiculous. I understand there needs to be a maximum, but I don't think 2 per bedroom is it. And let's look at the size. Let's look, and if it needs to have an inspection, great, that's fine. I just don't want to be limited and advertise, as I have, that it holds 25 people. There are beds for 29 people. I advertise for 25, because I don't really want more than that. So that's the first thing I have. It's an arbitrary maximum, the way it's written in there, 2 people per bedroom. Yeah, for 1,000 square foot or maybe even a 1,500 square foot house, that works. It does not work for a bigger house. And I feel personally discriminated against as owner of a big house. In these bedrooms, we get a lot of multi-generational family reunions, stuff like that. So a small bedroom, or a bedroom that size, the whole family goes and sleeps in there, and that's not a problem, small families. The other thing, as Superintendent Clyde, is the background checks. Randy kept saying, like Randy Plummer, Mr. Plummer said, make the call. I guess I'd like some clarification. What call is that? Because when it's in the verbiage, it says that I, as an owner, need to keep for 12 months, either digitally or in writing, that I've done this. I have absolutely no problem. I am not only one of the 90%, I'm probably one of the 99% that goes above and beyond. I've done all of this other stuff. The only thing probably I'll need to do, other than making background checks, is pay the $250. I mean, everything else I'm already doing. But here, on this, I want to know, where do I call? I know I can get a list of the sex offenders, but that's not what it says in the words. It says that I need to do a background check. Does that mean a credit check? Does that mean I go and find out, you know, what they drive? What kind of background check? I'd like that clarified. And if that means calling or looking online and downloading that list once a month, I'm perfectly fine with that. I really do want the community protected. I have never had a trouble as far as I know, but I would like that clarified. Like I said, we've already given all of our neighbors our contact info. We have a noise-aware device that tells us when our guests are being too noisy. We have one outside, we have one inside. We get text alerts, we get emails. We can call the guests at that time. It has been extremely effective. This is something that VRBO has suggested, they support. We, as soon as it became available, signed up for it. That's something that is an option, is the noise-aware system. It's very, very effective. And like I said, all of our neighbors know who we are, and so, like I said, my whole thing is can we just have background checks and not, I mean, check and see if they're a sex offender, not a background check. It doesn't, I'd like that clarified.
Thank you for those comments. So, Randy, is there any clarification you can give at this time on the flexibility of occupancy within a bedroom and also the background check question? She doesn't understand what that.
Call. Do you have a number?
So we do have, there are websites, and we will be providing a list, just like we do with contractors or something like that. And they perform the background check.
And VRBO does not do that, by the way. I called. I was on hold with VRBO an hour yesterday. They do not do background checks.
Okay.
So this list that we would provide to everyone will do the background check.
Okay.
And they just say they're good, bad.
And what's the cost on that?
When I called, I did one on me. There was no cost.
Okay.
When I called.
And I can make multiple on the same call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm assuming so. I only had me. I didn't really want to check on anyone else. But I did call on me. It cost me nothing. We'll have you know I'm not a sex offender. I found out. So I'm good. But,
Good to know.
So now the occupant load, they could certainly come and talk with, our first line of defense is going to be wastewater. Just because I don't know how the system was designed. It's all based on flow, as we know. They could say they've never had an issue and, talk with Jake. That would be our first line. And then if they did really want to, put 10 people in a bedroom, I would suspect that we could go out and verify that the egress and everything is
I'm not
there.
talking about putting 10.
I'm just,
I have a
just throwing-
5-bedroom house.
Well, 5 bedrooms, so that would be, a lot of bedrooms, bigger than most, and we could certainly look at that as a request, that we'd go out there and look at that. I did that before, when we dealt with the homes. They say, hey, we really want 15 instead of 10. They could show me how that worked. If it
Okay.
works, it works.
If you're amenable to that,
Yeah.
that was one of my
So
main
this will be a
things.
case by case, not
Correct.
just an arbitrary number.
Right,
It'll
if
be
you
a
came in
case by case.
and a lot of the ones we talked to do not have the bigger homes. They have the 1,200, 1,500 square. And we tell them, okay, you got a 3-bedroom versus saying 6 people. Okay, I'm good with that. So if someone came in and really wanted to request a different number,
Yeah,
I'm not
25
gonna
is
guarantee that we would give that number, but we would go out and verify that it was safe. And if it was, there's no reason not to let them have that number.
And is there, if we disagree with you, if you tell me, oh no, only 12 people can be here, do I have options to dispute that?
We can always go to our hearing officer, which is set. And the same thing we normally do. What I would do is staff presents what we think, you present what you think, he makes a ruling. He may say, show me how you can do this, or whatever that
Mr.
is.
Chair, if I may, we're
Yes.
getting into a one-on-one argument. And as far as sewer goes, the state has sewer regulations. And so we're getting into an argument here. And in my opinion, it's not how big the house is. You can have a 35-bedroom house, but if you only got a septic that only handles so much flow, that's all the state will allow. So we're getting into a one-on-one argument here that I think the state statute will take care of. It's not ours. And especially, we're not going to get it dealt with in this argument.
Okay, good. Thank you for,
Thank you.
is there anyone here, anyone else here in the Globe Room? Cassandra, do we have anyone on the internet with a question? Okay, I think we have several in Payson. We have Carolyn Epler, who lives on Gibson Ranch Road, who also wrote a lengthy email. So Carolyn, would you care to come? She wishes to speak. So we're going to, like I said, to keep things moving, we're going to try and keep it to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, supervisors, for the opportunity to comment. I am in support of this ordinance. I recognize there's pros and cons depending on if you're the investor or the residential families that are addressing with the problem. In many of the rural residential unincorporated areas in Gila County, there are 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre parcels. And we, in our neighborhood, we have, that I'm aware of, at least 6 short-term rentals. We've had problems and had to call law enforcement. As Mr. Boyce had shared, there's several issues with speeding, problems with ATVs coming on other private properties. There's a lot of issues with that. And as far as the background check, it's my belief that that's important. You have many restrictions for long-term rentals. There's restrictions in hotels for different requirements. And it appears to me at this point, because there are no regulations currently for short-term rentals, they are not addressing any of these issues as a rental without an ordinance. They're being treated as a regular residential home. So I feel strongly that the background check is important. How that's done, There's different ways to accomplish that. But even with that in place, you have short-term rentals where the person applying for that rental may not end up even staying there, and however many people that join them, they don't have background checks. We've had problems with drug issues in our neighborhood. We've had the sheriff run people out of that rental, actually. So the background check is a start. It will help protect the neighbors and the children. And, you know, we don't have issue with people wanting to earn money, but when it impacts a residential area with families where there's no control of who's going to be coming in there, renting that facility for a few days, our experience so far has not been positive with the half dozen houses in our neighborhood right now. And you have my letter of comments so you can look at the details, but I'd like to just mention, you know, if there's no cap on the density of how many of these rentals can be in a residential area, there's a lot of folks that want to leave because of these short-term rentals, because of the problems. You're going to end up flipping that residential area down the road into more transient rather than what's been there for decades as a tight-knit family residential area. I don't want to see that happen. So I appreciate the ordinance. Hopefully that will help that. Another issue we know from the legal aspect is how the short-term rentals affect the hotels and the B&Bs that are coming out of hosted houses. And that's another issue that I hope that you take a closer look at when you have a short-term rental with no one that owns the home being there versus one that is hosted. I have seen in the past for the hosted rentals, there's much more accountability, less issues. When the person that owns that property rents it out without being there, that's where we've seen a lot of problems. So I would hope that could.
Thank you, Mrs. Epler. We're out of time. And I'll make sure that your email, I think Randy already has it, but I'll make sure that he can review that. Thank you for those comments.
If we want to discuss this further, how do we go about doing that?
Well, you can continue to email, and I have a feeling that we're going to be looking at this ordinance and its performance over the next months and perhaps years to make sure that we're doing the best that we can and it's fair and legal. Some of the things requested are not within our legal ability to do.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Michelle Nelson, Payson, Arizona.
Thank you, supervisors. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this issue today. I understand why this ordinance is being contemplated. We have issues with short-term rentals in my community, and I'm sure you hear about the same ones. That said, this ordinance will only increase the complaints, and as we just observed today, your compliance officer was having an argument with an owner in your chambers this morning. Already I see that this ordinance violates the state law just from the documents provided from this agenda item. The state law does not require owners to run a background check if they are on a platform that does. Your ordinance not only requires all owners to run a check, it requires them to keep the documents on file for immediate inspection for a full year. Not only that, but this ordinance opens the door for a neighbor, vengeful supervisor, or code enforcement officer to nitpick an owner out of business between onerous fines and upgrades. The ordinance is full of burdensome requirements, including how often you change sheets, pest control, posting of county ordinances, exit plans for a studio apartment, and it goes on and on. State law strictly limits the additional regulations you can impose on short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods, so the county would be opening itself to lawsuits and empowering neighborhood feuds with an overly restrictive ordinance. Already, the Arizona Supreme Court has sided with short-term rental owners over HOAs. And these guys I thought were impervious. In the decision Martin Callaway versus Calabria Ranch HOA, the court found that HOAs cannot restrict short-term rentals, a clear win for owners. So I respectfully request that staff go back to the drawing board and minimize the regulations to solve the problem at hand, which is party houses. But if you're unwilling to do that, I just ask you to do three things, and the town of Payson did them the day they voted for their ordinances. Number one, waive the background check for the guests if hosts are on a platform that does a check. Number two, give owners a 30-day grace period to correct deficiencies before you impose fines. And number three, add the word adults to the bedroom capacity limit. This will remove the discrimination against families. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll make sure that these comments, that Randy gets these comments. I have them right here. Next, Verla Doctor, on Wayne Drive.
I really appreciate you guys letting us come in and speak with you. We are residents and we are Airbnbers. 20 years ago, my husband and I bought our first home in our neighborhood. It was a major fixer-upper with a tree growing through the roof. We spent our weekends coming up and fixing up this home and turning it into from a community eyesore to a nice 1,800 square foot home. We had our family come up and enjoy the home with us. This housed 10 people with no problems. Our grandkids enjoyed our camper house, as they called it. In 2010, we purchased the house next door. That was one of the worst eyesores in our community. We had to tear it down and rebuild. There is not one person in our community who won't say that we have improved the look of this community. We then purchased another home that was another fixer-upper and improved the look of that. I would invite anybody to come and see our homes and see the improvement we've made in our community. These are now Airbnbs. We live in the community. We have never had a complaint on any of our homes, but your broad regulations that can just bring every law against us is just going to shut us down. We're not going to be able to pay your fines and your registration fees and keep going because there are people in the community that will bring complaints. Yet you're not going to make them adhere to any of these rules that we have to adhere to. They're able to park in the street. Our neighbor doesn't like that we have an Airbnb. He blocks our driveway with his car. No regulations to that, is there? That same neighbor called us one day and said our renter was playing music on the patio. We couldn't hear the music till we pulled into the yard. That same owner the next day was blasting music that could be heard 3 doors down. He's not regulated, but we will be. What about the long-term rentals? I want to tell you that Michelle and I got together and formed a committee in our community to address the Airbnb issues. We told them at a board meeting how to get a hold of Airbnb and VRBO should they have any concerns. That same day, and we only had out of 27 known Airbnbers, 3 that were causing a problem. That same day, a neighbor called on one of the problem homes to Airbnb. Within 24 hours, the owner had been contacted. He had been told that the renters had to leave immediately. They left. That owner then said, I guess I have a problem. He contacted the rest of the neighbors, and he has now addressed the amount of people he's renting to, and we've not heard one more complaint about his property. The other owner called me up and said because of complaints about his property, he had decided to go to a long-term rent. Guess what? His long-term rental now has had the sheriff, up to 5 sheriff's cars out there flashing lights. because of domestic issues, and we're told involving guns. That's a long-term rental. They've got a year lease. They're not a weekend issue. They're a permanent issue.
Okay. We're out of time. I do appreciate the comments. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have Gretchen Goslin, Gibson Ranch Road.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this behalf. I, here with my neighbors, purchased out off Gibson Ranch Road about almost 5 years ago. We have a very strong sense of community there, and we love that about our community. My concern is the sheer density of some of these rentals that are coming into our neighborhoods. As Ms. Epler stated, we have 6 within probably a quarter mile of us. It seems like when a property goes up for sale, they become short-term rentals. The traffic is just, I know these are things that you guys can't address, and I do thank Randy for starting this discussion and the ordinance, and I believe that we should be doing background checks. Background checks means felons coming into our neighborhoods and things like that. Not just sex offenders, but it is concerning. This is a long road to, getting some of these issues fixed. I just would like to continue attending the meetings or staying in contact with community development to see how we can, have some type of ordinance. I do believe that things should be regulated. We're not trying to really drive out the already existing rentals, but I sure hope that we can do something about this density of them. And the person that represented, that was heard before, was showing the growth here in Payson. We just kind of want to keep our communities safe for our kids, things like that. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Gretchen. This time I'm going to close the public hearing portion and ask Supervisor Humphrey. Oh, do we have another one? Lisa?
Yes, sir. I don't know how the paperwork didn't get to you. I have a Jeff Boyce here to speak.
Okay, we will reopen the public hearing. Will this be our last one?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please state your name and your address, please.
Jeff Boyce, 8079 West Gibson Ranch Road, Payson, Arizona. I thank you for the opportunity to address the board. You have the letter that I wrote. Would you like me to read it quickly?
If you'd like, I briefly went over it earlier, but we like to hold it to 3 minutes, so maybe just the highlights.
Well, this letter is to address the problems we're having with the short-term rentals in our property. We are a private road. It's a dirt road. It's a dusty road. And I moved there about 5 years ago, and I knew every car that went by, every resident that lived on our road. Now, I have no idea who's coming down our road. They're speeding. They're making dust like you wouldn't believe. This is a private road and it is a dirt road. So we have to maintain the road. The county doesn't. So we have all this traffic and they don't have to maintain the road. They just tear it up. And I would like to address the non-commercial. Our neighborhood is a non-commercial resident. I don't understand how having a short-term rental, which is basically a motel, is allowed in our neighborhood. We have one neighbor that actually has a sign in the front of his driveway. Welcome to Clough Hospitality. If that's not a business, then I don't know what is. We have problems with the drugs. I just found out today that there's a second short-term rental that has problem with the renters bringing in drugs. We have investors coming into our property, buying homes. They do not live there at all. It is strictly for short-term rentals, which ends up with 5 or 6 trucks and trailers and quads and the side-by-sides, loud music, and drugs. That is one that the drugs were brought into. I just don't understand how these short-term rentals can even be legal, period, and especially in a non-commercial neighborhood. And like I said, the effect on the town. Payson is a very small town. There's a few motels and hotels in town. Now you tell me how you can take all of these Airbnbers that you can rent a room for $40 a night. Now that is hurting our community. That is hurting the business owners that have to apply by all the rules, regulations, codes for safety, and everything else. And now you just have people that buy a house, probably from the valley or, you know, wherever they're from, and just leave a key somewhere and people come and party in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is not what I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a home in there for, is not our peaceful private neighborhood anymore. I don't understand how a non-commercial neighborhood can have businesses running in them with even signage on the front of their business. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope we can resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce, and I want to thank everyone that had comments and input. So I'll close the public hearing portion of this item, and I was going to call on Supervisor Humphrey, but Randy, do you have something?
Well, I want to address the density.
Density? Okay.
That's been brought up. So state statute overrides all this. It doesn't allow us to pick every other house that can be a short-term rental, that can't be, that can be. State says we are not allowed to regulate who is a short-term rental. We can make sure that they are a permitted structure and licensed for that, but we're not allowed to say who can be and who cannot be. So that really regulating the density, that there's 10 in a neighborhood, or I've actually been told the whole neighborhood is short-term rental. There's no way for us to regulate that at this time per state statute. So when it comes to density, I don't see how we can deal with that and still stay under the state statute. But, you know, I have no problem coming back to you in a year if you want us to do that. And we look at this and see the good and the bad and move forward and change and modify or whatever you request. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah, the state for a very long time did not allow the counties or municipalities to have any regulation whatsoever over it. It's only a recent thing, and that's why we're considering it today. So we are restricted by the state in many ways on what we can and cannot do.
Absolutely, sure.
Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah. Randy, first, I appreciate you very much as you work on creating these ordinances and your communication with me, because it seems as you go through steps, you ask questions, because we're voted in to represent the people of Gila County. So thank you as you go through these to ask questions before you present something to us. I appreciate that. And I thank all the time that you and staff have spent in creating an ordinance, because it seems like in this, you know, I'm for less government, not more government, but it seems in the changing world today, we're having to create ordinances for both animals and people, which a few years ago was unheard of. But as the world changes, you know, I mean, we're having to do ordinances against elk. Well, they can't complain, but darn it, they got ordinances against them to protect the staff and the people of Gila County. And so here we are faced with an ordinance for Airbnbs, and I think I'm a business person. I think business is great, but at what cost for the residents who live around that business? Businesses are to be there to serve the public, not create nuisance for the public. So you know, where's that fine line? And so there again, thank you, because you're hitting a lot of, you're dodging a lot of things to try to create ordinances, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank
you. And I would just like to say that as we go forward on these ordinances, and I'm all for it, and can we change things as we go? Yeah, but a lot of our ordinances were written 50 years ago or not required 50 years ago. So they are now. So we have to start, and we can always make changes. But I just want to say thank you very much, and as we go forward with new residences in our changing world, that all of my thoughts are for the constituents who live in Gila County full time, and what's best for them as far as phones or Airbnbs or feeding the animals. So that's just kind of where I'm at going forward, and I just want to say thank you very, very much for tackling some of these difficult situations for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Randy, let's talk about zoning and what Mr. Boyce is saying there. So, does the state supersede that as well? As far as putting a business in the middle of residential zones? How does that work?
The state regulates short-term rentals, and where basically it says you can't stop a short-term rental. So, yes, they regulate that. I'm not going to say they doesn't stop someone from putting a liquor store in a neighborhood, but short-term rentals are regulated by the state, and they, from my understanding, trump us as far as we can't be more restrictive than what the state says.
Right.
And the state says we can't regulate them where they're at. So, yes to the answer, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying we can't regulate where they go.
Okay, and
so they over trump zoning as far as short-term rentals go.
Okay. So, no matter what, neighborhoods turn into short-term rentals or whatever, we have no say one way or another on that.
Currently, yes. Like I said, prior 5 years ago, you couldn't do anything with
Right.
short-term rental. So the state's came a long way, because I have to say from hearings that I've listened to, the state's getting hammered just as much as, and a lot of it's from the jurisdictions, saying, how can you come and tell us we can't help our neighborhoods, you know, and so that they've listened. This is, like I said, this is where they are at today. I assume that this will, state statute will continue to change and modify to address most jurisdictions and people's concerns
Right.
In this matter.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
And I was pretty sure that's where we're headed, but I wanted you to say it.
Okay.
So, but if I was to make a guess, there's a chance, because we do see that. We see the changing neighborhoods that are turning into short-term rentals and stuff like that. It is a big investment for folks. I mean, it's there. But in the same sense, you know, we regulate commercial businesses in certain zones and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
So if I was to make a guess, I'll bet that changes again. So, okay.
It'd be, then
But-
we might be able to really affect a lot of these neighborhoods that overrun.
That's where we could regulate the amount of them or whatever in certain parts, maybe. Who knows? We'll see what the future will bring, but that's what I wanted Mr. Boyce to hear right there, was that was kind of one of his questions, is how can we allow that? Well, we have no say-so in it, basically.
Yes, sir.
Right now. So, I'm gonna let you take it right now while I think a minute.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments, gentlemen? Then I will call for a motion.
I didn't think you was gonna take it.
I don't mind making the motion, but I don't want to cut you off if you're going to say something, Supervisor Klein.
Yeah, let me say something before you do that, okay?
Okay, and then you're welcome.
Okay. Okay. So, I said this earlier, and I said it to everybody, this is a very important discussion we're having here today. I don't get the warm fuzzy feeling that we've covered every angle of it that we could have or should have to make this decision. The decision we're gonna make, I like I said earlier too, I am for an ordinance to help these folks that live in these neighborhoods and these places. I am for that. But I wanna make sure we got it right when we do it. So I guess I would say if everybody's ready to make a decision, I guess I can. But I guess we'll see where it goes. What usually happens for the 7 years I've been in this chair is we have a work session, we discuss some things, the next thing we do, we roll it into a meeting and we decide. A lot of times that's okay with the issues we're dealing with. I'm not sure we're covering all of our bases on this issue. I'm not sure that there shouldn't be some more discussion somewhere where we can actually talk. And for those of you, and most of you sitting in this room probably know it, but I can't talk to this gentleman or that gentleman anywhere except sitting right here in this chair. That is the only time I can talk to him. And the only other way to have any kind of discussion or to lean over and ask Mr. Humphrey a question of what he thinks is inside of a work session. That is the only time we can do that. And I don't know, I don't have the warm fuzzy feelings that we've answered all my questions right now to make a decision. I guess I'm willing to do that if I need be, but I don't know that I'm there yet.
And I don't know how to answer every question. I know this is our third public meeting with this. We've had 2 work sessions for you. This is kind of the direction I heard going forward. Like I said, I have no problem bringing this back in a year and looking at it and hearing whatever your constituents have said, good, bad, or this is your guys' decision. I'm just brought back what I thought I heard.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Randy, you're absolutely right. You've listened to us, and I think we've all vocalized the same thing. We have to do something. Well, I don't think any one of us 3 that I've heard has faltered on that one way or another. What I'm telling you today, and everybody that's listening to me right now, was when we do this, I want it to be right. You know, because we're going to affect people one way or another, positive and not so positive and whatnot. We're going to do that. But I want to make sure it's the right way. That's all I'm saying.
So Randy, when were you thinking, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'll move to adopt ordinance number 2023-08.
Okay, we have a motion.
All right. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 3A. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Moving on, let's start to build some momentum here if we can. Item 4A. Is that yours? Oh, my goodness. Information, discussion, action to approve adding a new position for a new full-time code enforcement officer to the Community Development Department's fiscal year 2024 budget to facilitate the permitting and code enforcement for vacation rental and short-term rental ordinance number 2023-08. Randy.
As we've talked in the past, again, good morning, everyone. As we've talked in the past, this is going to take some personnel time to direct this, and Mr. Minlove has been very supportive of this, but because this current position does not exist in the budget, that's why it's on the board agenda here to address this issue. We would like to be able to hire and start interviewing as soon as we can for this position, because I know we didn't really address this, but so the ordinance would go in effect, but we're planning on not enforcing this until the end of May. So it would be right before the big season. That'll give us time to get someone on board, address everything, get it going, get it all moving forward, and also give everyone else time to get in and fill out their forms and all those kind of things too, so we can adopt this and do it correctly as well as we can. So that's why I'm asking for this position.
Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no discussion.
Supervisor Klein.
So we're only gonna be looking at one position, Randy?
That is to start. There is I've talked with Mr. Minlove and Mr. O'Driscoll about the opportunity of a second one, but I want to confirm that that's needed. I don't want to just throw people in here to just have people. So I want to grow this efficiently, and if we need a second person, I will probably be putting that in my budget moving forward, that then if it gets adopted, can be done. But I'm currently I didn't want to wait until June of next year to even start the interview process, because we'll be behind at that point. So yes, currently I'm only asking for one, with the possibility of a second one coming forward after we see what this really entails and how responsive everyone is.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a comment, because I think there is going to be a necessity for a second hearing officer, and the reason being is because blight is one of my big things, and we get hit with a lot of blight cases, and to put any more on our existing hearing officer with animal control and blight and things would just bottleneck everything, because we're getting a whole new environment put into that situation. And I do believe, to keep from bottling things, we need both of those positions, because if we're going to enforce everything properly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll carry on so I can finish my presentation.
Yes, go ahead.
I read in this where we anticipated like $300,000 of income out of this ordinance. Give or take, who knows, but that's kind of what we were guessing through our work session. So the thought is that is going to pay for our person to do that. What are we gonna do if it doesn't? Are we gonna tap into general fund money to do this? Or are we gonna cut back? How are we gonna work this? Does anybody know? Maybe Michael does.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. It's pretty simple. So we've just upgraded to a new track-it system as well, which has billing capabilities, and it's making our staff time much more efficient when it comes to this. So we understand the first year of this ordinance is going to be the busiest time, right? Because that's when we're going to have to identify the short-term rentals and get them into our system. And then after we get that into our system, it's going to be automated as far as billing goes. And then we're going to be just like code enforcement does today. We're going to be complaint-based. So, and then with our new track-it system, we're going to be able to have our staff out in the field enter all of their documents and documentation that they go out to these properties to investigate out in the field itself. So we're making our staff much more efficient. Mr. Menlove has approved the new track-it system about 6 months ago, and we went live yesterday. Yesterday we went live with that system. So I'm guessing one person for the first year, maybe two. I don't see the need for that once we get all the data entered into the system. And then each year we'll assess how many complaints. We're going to be able to pull out how many complaints, what type of complaints, and the time we spent on these complaints. So we'll be able to provide that to the board each and every year. And if it does become an issue, we will happily go to Mr. Menlove and board and just present that documentation to you, along with the revenue and how much we've spent.
So
that answers your
it does, Michael, and thank you. And I really want to thank you too, Randy, for where you're looking at the first year, because it is a trial run. And so to jump in there and overload ourselves, I don't see the need to do that. I'd really like to say that, we get what we need to get started and see where this goes. So I really like your approach to that. So thank you, Randy. That's it, Mr.
Supervisor Humphrey, did you have any more?
Yeah, I wasn't reaching for a second position for code enforcement. Wasn't it mentioned for a a hearing officer? Was that
correct, sir? Yeah, so that's
brought up as a second person, not an ordinance officer, but a a hearing officer.
Correct, because if you're absolutely right. So, thrown in here too, we're working with Public Works for hearing officer for them possibly too. So yes,
Okay.
we're going to be looking at strongly trying to find a second hearing officer.
Okay, yeah, and that's what my
Absolutely,
support
yes.
was in the hearing officer, to keep from bottling up our hearing cases.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. James?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in looking at the number of units that we have in Gila County at a $250 per unit charge, we are looking at an absolute minimum of $200,000, probably in the $300,000 neighborhood of revenue. Now, there are those in this room that will attest that I'm a stickler with adding new position. In fact, it is, I say no, just because that is the way to ruin our budget. This is a particular position where there will be revenues, and I am absolutely 100% sure that it'll be north of $200,000. The position that we're looking to add, maximum with benefits and everything, is $75,000 a year. So it'll be a net gain that we can continue to look at a hearing officer or something like that as we go forward, not wanting to jump in and spend as much or in excess of what we're planning on revenues. This position is essential for us to make this work, to be able to get the businesses, get the short-term rentals registered, and so that we can have them identified to be able to administer all the things that have been discussed this morning. So I am, as Randy has said, been very supportive of this, that we have to have this to administer the new ordinance that has been put in place this morning.
Okay, thank you for that input. If there's nothing else, gentlemen, I'll call for a motion on 4A.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve a new position for a full-time code enforcement officer to the Community Development Departments for the '24 budget as.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Item 4B. Thank you, Randy. Information, discussion, action to adopt resolution number 23-12-03, authorizing the Gila County Recorder as the Board of Supervisors designee to designate 2 emergency voting centers for the 2024 presidential preference election specified in the resolution. Sadie Jo Bingham, and I see you brought Darlene as well.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. We're bringing this resolution because in ARS 16411 B5, it states that the Board of Supervisors can designate emergency voting sites and designate somebody. So in the past, the Recorder's Office has done the emergency voting because we do hold the voter registration rolls. And so this is just a resolution for the upcoming presidential preference election, which is held in March. And we would have the emergency voting on the 18th, the day before the election. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sadie Jo. Supervisor Humphrey?
I have no questions, Mr.
Thank you, Supervisor Klein.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Eddie.
This is what we've done every year. This is just standard. So
Yes.
if anyone's listening, this is nothing new or different. So thank you, Sadie Jo. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt resolution number 23-12-03.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Sadie Jo.
Thank you.
Item 4C, information, discussion, action to approve amendment number 1 to IGA contract number CTR 059342 with the Arizona Department of Health Services in the amount of $37,500 for the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2027 to address important public health issues and communities affected by drug addiction and incarceration by working with the Gila County Probation Office and courts. So we have Jay Boyer.
Yes, good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity. I have Mr. Beck here as well from the Health Department. We are requesting a renewal of the Senate Bill 1847 IGA between probation and the Health Department. The IGA is a 5-year agreement with the Arizona Department of Health Services that was originally signed back in April of 22. The original agreement was with the County Health Department for funding under the SB 1847, which is the medical marijuana revenue stream, for the purpose of addressing important public health issues in communities affected by drug addiction and incarceration. Gila County was allocated $37,500 of the total $5 million based on proportion to the population. Based on the scope of the funding, Mr. O'Driscoll and our former chief probation officer determined the funding would fit probation's mission to offer substance abuse treatment and electronic monitoring services to offenders with substance use disorders and who are facing incarceration. We're asking for the agreement to be renewed so the Department of Health Services can issue an updated purchase order for fiscal year 24 so that we can utilize those funds for those purposes. And Mr. Beck's here for the technical questions if you have any.
Please go ahead, Josh.
If you have questions.
Yeah.
No, this made sense. It's for justice reinvestment.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect fit for the probation department. Even though a lot of these funds are starting to come through public health these days, we made sure to work with Stephen Sard on this, and we're happy to work with Jay as well.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no question.
Supervisor Klein.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to approve amendment number 1 to the Arizona Department of Health Services Intergovernmental Agreement, contract number CTR 059342 in the amount of $37,500 as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
A motion to approve in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 4D, information discussion action to accept FFY 2024 Governor's Office of Highway Safety Grant Award in the amount of $10,000 for the period of October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024 that will be used to support Sheriff's Office personnel services, overtime, and employee-related expenses for selective traffic enforcement program, speed enforcement activities. Good to see you, Sarah.
Yes, good morning, Chairman, members of the board. This is the annual grant application we put into the governor's office to support our extra enforcement for DUI and speed-related citations throughout Gila County. This year we were awarded $10,000. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions.
Supervisor Klein.
Thanks for doing this, Sarah.
Yeah.
Good use of money, so thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept an FFY 2024 Governor's Office of Highway Safety Award, contract number 2024-PTS-023 in the amount of $10,000 as presented.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Sarah. Information, discussion, action to adopt resolution number 23-12-01, resolution number 23-12-02, appointing Maren Blythe Belling, Financial Director, as the Chief Fiscal Officer for the Gila County as required by Arizona Revised Statute 41-1279.07E to submit the fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024 expenditure limitation reports to the Arizona Auditor General. James.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you just stated, in accordance with Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 41-1279-07E, the state law requires that the Board of Supervisors appoint the Chief Financial Officer of the county for reporting of the annual expenditure limitation report to the board. There are two ordinances that are requested to be that you approve today. One is for submitting the annual expenditure limitation for the year ended 2023, and the second one, 23-12-02, is for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024, submitting both of those ELRs. Thank you.
Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions. Just appreciation for Maren to have that ability and being able and willing to do that.
Supervisor Klein.
I'm good. Yeah, Maren's quite capable.
Is this a promotion or just in a title?
It's
designation.
That is what her title is as finance director of the county. She is chief financial officer as part of her title, regular title. This is just a required specific designation that you are required as a Board of Supervisors by statute to take care of this administrative action annually.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number 231201 and resolution number 231202.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item F, 4F, information discussion action to approve contract agreement number ADSP 017-149774 with CDW-G in the amount of $49,939.09 for the purchase of BOS security software to be billed annually for 3 one-year terms. Harry.
Good morning, Chairman Christensen and board members. The IT department would like to purchase the Varonis security software, a tool designed to identify network vulnerabilities and enhance the monitoring of our digital environment. This software is not only a strategic asset to managing Auditor General requirements, but also represents an opportunity to optimize our resources. This software will replace one of my open system administrator positions. To fund the solution, I will be giving back one of the positions and using the funding from the position.
Thank you, Carrie. Supervisor Humphrey.
I guess I just have one question,
Yes,
and
sir.
I think it's great, and I'm glad it's before us today. But the county manager can accept anything under 50, and this is under 50, so I mean, it's fine. But, and I appreciate you presenting it to us, but that's the only question that I had.
There's a 3-year term on it, so it's
Oh, okay, the 3-year term, so it would make it, okay, thank you.
Supervisor Klein.
So, Kerry, thank you, but I think one of the really important things is, as you guys know, every year we get hammered on cybersecurity in our audits. Basically to the point where they stood there and told us there's really nothing we can do to change that. It's gonna be a yearly deal. But this is a step in the right direction. From what I understand, this is a very good system that will help alleviate a lot.
Yes, sir, it will alleviate a lot. One prime example is I was making a change on one of our systems, and we had the temporary solution in place as a test, and they called me asking me if this change should be made. So they are also monitoring our system and the changes being made. So it's not only us being able to pull reports and monitor this with the system, they're also monitoring us to make sure that nothing is trying to infiltrate us also.
Right, and so, you know, yeah, I look at it like, yeah, 49,000, but it's more than $49,000. It's way more than that. And so this, I'm not sure will totally satisfy our auditors, but maybe a little bit, so.
It'll help.
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. So you're cutting a position in order to pay for this. This is not just a want, though. This is a need.
Correct. I am trading position for this, and it is a want and a need. I think
Yeah.
it's a big need for the county to make us feel at least a little bit more secure. You know, as Mr. Klein Mr. Klein said, you can't alleviate all of them. You know, you're never going to be able to stop everything, but this will help us in that. So.
And this position is an unfilled position?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. With that, I'll call for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve contract agreement number ADSP 017-149774 with CDWG in the amount of $49,939 and 0.09 cents as presented.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
One other comment about the price, that I know that Carrie has worked really hard, that when they first came back with a proposed contract value was like 60, 70,000. So Carrie's gotten even better value for this. So that's where it ended up slightly less than 50.
Thank you for that, Carrie. Yeah.
Thank you.
Every dollar we can save. So,
Thanks.
item 4G, information discussion action to approve the Arizona Department of Health Services delegation agreement number AGR 2023-024, which will allow the Gila County Health Department to conduct local inspection and enforcement activities that are designed to reduce the risk of disease transmission to residents and visitors of Gila County. Josh?
Good morning, Chairman Christensen, supervisors. So the last time that we renewed our delegation agreement with ADHS was in 2017. This is our delegation agreement that supports all the food inspections we do, property maintenance, public health nuisance from the public health side, children's camp, campground, school health, smoke-free Arizona. If I'm missing anything, I think that's all of them. Personally, I've worked in states in public health where we've done this at the state level, at the regional level, and at the local level. My recommendation, just from my personal experience, is to keep it at the local level and not let the state do that. There's a lot of wiggle room in a lot of these things, and we get to take our directive from the health department from the three of you. I think that's a good way to be. We work with local people. My sanitarians, live local, work with the restaurants. We try to get people to a yes. I think there's a lot of benefits to doing this at the local level, which is why we continue to put the delegation agreement to the board and move forward with these.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no question.
Supervisor Klein?
Thank you, Josh.
Yes, thank you. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve Arizona Department of Health Services Delegation Agreement Number AGR 2023-024 as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Josh. And next we have 4H, information discussion action to approve amendment number 7 to contract number 019-0444 between the Pinal Gila Council for Senior Citizens Area Agency on Aging Region 5 and Gila County Community Services Department, extending the contract effective July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, and adding $156,000 to be used for home repair, renovations, and housing services for a total contract amount of $257,778. Kaylee, good to see you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is, like you mentioned, this is a contract extension through June 30th of 2024 with a significant increase in funding. What's really great about this grant is through Pinal Gila Council for Senior Citizens, we can focus on our citizens that are 60 plus, and there's no income requirement for them to qualify for this. They just have to meet the age requirement. And there is a $4,000 cap per household, and we can do things like appliance repair and replacement, home repairs, and things like that. So it's really wonderful for our senior population.
Thank you, Kaylee. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, I guess a question is, who is the contractors that you use to spend this money with?
So this is a little less stringent, so we can use more general contractors that are not like my next item that are state certified very specifically. So this one we do have a little more leniency on as well.
Okay, my question was, which local contractors would you use for this funding?
Whoever bids on it, really. It's just, I don't know all of their names off the top of my head, unfortunately. But I could get that information.
Okay, I'll follow up on the next question. Thank you.
Yes.
Supervisor Klein.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Yes, thank you, Kaylee. And with that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve amendment number 7 to contract number 019-0444 with the Pinal Gila Council for Senior Citizens Area Agency on Aging, Region 5, to increase the contract in the amount of $156,000 as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Kaylee. Next item, item I, information discussion action to approve amendment number 1 to service agreement number 062922 with Advantage Home Performance Incorporated to extend the term of the contract for 1 additional year to September 5th, 2024, with a not to exceed amount of $546,679.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is our first renewal option for our contract with Advantage Home Performance. This contractor is specific to energy efficiency and code improvement for our weatherization assistance program. And they are the only bidder that we had for this, and they are state certified.
Thank you, Kaylee. Supervisor Humphrey.
Okay, so all of this funding needs to go to a BPI certified contractor, all of that $546,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that's why I was gonna follow up, because I understand that if they have to be BPI certified and are not, but with your program and the funding, I very much would like to help support all the local contractors that we can with
Absolutely.
some of the funding that we can use. And be prepared to give me names next time you come up with grants. I want to know who it goes to.
Yeah.
So if I know some licensed contractors that it's not going to, believe me, I'll send them to you. Because
That would be
as a
wonderful.
contractor myself, I've helped 2 or 3 local contractors get their license. And I want some of this money to go to them because they're here.
Yeah, it would be wonderful to keep it local. So
Yes.
I'm absolutely
Thank you.
for that. Yes, sir.
Supervisor Klein.
So I don't disagree with what Supervisor Humphrey said. You know, we've thrown those questions out now for 7 years, you know, and it really gets frustrating that we don't have our local contractors knocking on your door every day
Right.
for that. But, you know, because I think, I for one, I agree with Tim, is I'd like to see it go locally too as well. It gets kind of frustrating at times. This Advantage Home Performance Incorporated, they were the only ones that applied from the state?
Yes, sir.
Wow, okay. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you, Kaylee. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve Amendment 1, Number 1, to Service Agreement Number 062922 with Advantage Home Performance with a not-to-exceed amount of $546,679 as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
And item 4J, information, discussion, action to approve the administrative modification number 001 of Cooperative Forest Road Agreement number 20-RO-1103-1200-003 between Gila County and the United States Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, Pownell National Forest to update the point of contact for the respective parties and authorize the chairman's signature on the agreement. We have Homero.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, board members. This item is a rather simple one, initiated by the Forest Service. They wanted to make sure that we had the right context in the agreement. On page 4 of the agreement, you find those names. On the part of the county, it's Tom Goodman and myself. On the part of the Forest Service, it's Michelle Tom and Virginia Carrico. That's the only change that takes place to this agreement. We continue to meet on a regular basis with the Forest Service. I think the contract with them, the same contract, requires that we meet with them every quarter. We do that. We have an agenda item. We have minutes. We make progress on a lot of the big stuff. 512 Road, Townside Act, for instance, is one of the items that comes up on that agenda. In the near future, we're going to turn our focus to the roads, and when we do, we'll bring that to you at that time. With that, I would like to ask for your approval to approve the modification to the agreement we have with the Forest Service, and the changes again that take place or the context for each party.
Thank you, Homero. Supervisor Humphrey.
Homero, I thank you very much for all that you do and reach for in the meetings and things you have to keep us in all the activities that you do. So thank you very much.
Supervisor Klein.
Homero, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Homero. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve administrative modification number 001 to Cooperative Forest Road Agreement number 20-R01103-1200-003 as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Don't move, Homero. Item 4K, information, discussion, action to approve State of Arizona contract number CTR 066876 with J.E. Fuller Hydrology and Geomorphology Incorporated on a time and materials basis in an amount not to exceed $93,000 for maintenance of.
You did that on purpose. You're good.
No sweat. I thought that was a person.
Maybe you're not.
For maintenance of the flood alert system in Gila County for the period of December 5th, 2023 through July 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Chairman. This item is about the maintenance of our rain gauges. Back in the Telegraph fire, we hired J.E. Fuller to help us maintain some gauges very specific to the fire and some cameras very specific to the fire. Then last year, we entered into a contract for J.E. Fuller to look at all our gauges. We have 27 gauges, and of the 27 gauges, 11 of them have flow meters or pressure transducers, if you will. We also maintain several repeaters on some of the mountain heights that we have in the county so that we can transmit with our rain gauges. We have been maintaining those in a haphazard fashion in the past. With this contract last year, with the contract that we had, they visited every site. They made multiple observations and multiple repairs on many of our gauges, and they gave us, and part of the package that you have is a 100-page report on everything they did to every gauge. Okay, and in making that report to us, they told us specifically what they measured, what was wrong, and what they needed to correct that. Okay, one of the things that in talking to J.E. Fuller, one of the things that I would like to explore is to have some of our team do some of the minor repair on rain gauges. After all, they have a battery that is that is fed by a solar panel, and those two things are both easy to diagnose and easy to repair. And J.E. Fuller would be happy to have our folks join them when they go out and make the repair, so that in future years, we hire them for the telemetry, the complicated stuff, and we do all the easy stuff ourselves. Today, we still have some gauges that need some transmitters to be replaced, and we have some work on repeaters. And on top of that, we'd like for them to go to every gauge one more year, all 27 gauges, and that's part of the contract. The $93,000 in this not-to-exceed contract includes $50,000 for the maintenance of the 27 gauges to go out to every site and make whatever repair is necessary, as well as some capital improvements. I'm going to call them capital improvements or big-ticket items. That's several repeaters and multiple transmitters that need to be in these gauges. This is part of a statewide rain gauge system, and the data will reside with the state as well as with us. It is online. We actually, the front page of the county website has a little section at the bottom that's rain gauges. It's active. Most of the gauges are working, not all of them right now, and you can actually go to each gauge and see what's happened in the last, I think, 3 months. But if we wanted to ask for the data for the last couple of years, we can also do that. Again, this is in support of us being prepared for emergencies. We know we've had fires, we've had floods, and we've even had tornadoes. On that particular day, I did go and look to see how much rain we received in the area. And from Omaha, Nebraska, I was able to get on our website and look at those gauges. So it's, I think many counties support this, and it's something I think that particularly for Gila County is important, and I would like to ask your approval of this contract.
Thank you, Mayor. Supervisor Humphrey.
You know, one of my first questions was, does other agencies use this information other than Gila County? And you answered that by saying it's part of a statewide system, which leads me to another question. In a statewide system, is there any opportunity perhaps for state funding for statewide flood alert?
Initially, as Chairman and Supervisor Humphrey, initially the state helped fund the system, but they haven't funded the system in the past. Yes, we actually were using some of the Maricopa gauges during the Telegraph fire, as probably they were using some of our gauges. And just because the gauge is located in Maricopa County doesn't mean that the water doesn't flow to Gila County and vice versa. So we use gauges that don't belong to us as well when we look at the weather data. And we can go back to the state and remind them that this is a statewide organization and in pursuit of some funding from them, and I'd be happy to do that. And we'll
Yeah, because we don't get near enough flood funding, so any little bit might help. Thank you very much, Omar.
Thank you. Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Homer, thank you for all this. I remember when we put all that into effect after that fire. As time goes by, are we gonna be looking at maybe switching them around or putting them in different areas? Or are they just gonna remain kind of where they're at? They're really handy to have.
Chairman and Supervisor Klein, we can move them wherever we want to. As a matter of fact, some of them are gonna get moved a small distance to collect better data as part of this contract. They have a very specific to-do list that they've shared with us as a recommendation from them. And in every time we move something in the Forest Service, you know that there needs to be permitting. That's included in here to make sure that they talk to the Forest Service. But yes, we need to get as smart as we can on the location of the gauges and the number of gauges. And I'm here to tell you that of the 27 gauges, we probably will find out that we don't need 27 where they're located, and we need to just start to take this data and convert it to information. And this gives us the ability to do that, where we can focus on that. In the past, we wanted to focus on repairing the gauges in-house and spent some energies doing that, and we spun our wheels so much that it took us to J.E. Fuller during the alert, during the telegraph fire. But I think with the data that we get and that the team is starting to use this data, there's a couple of drainage issues that we had recently where we went to see how much did it really rain on that day. And I think the whole team is going to get smarter about that, and also whether or not and where we need the gauges. That's a good point, though.
Thank you, Homer.
Thank you, Homer. Very vital system that we utilize. So I will call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve State of Arizona contract number CTR 066876 with J.E. Fuller Hydrology and, yeah, incorporated with a not-to-exceed amount of $93,000.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Homero. Item L, information, discussion, action to authorize the advertisement of request for proposals number 110623, on-call heavy truck and equipment service with a not-to-exceed amount of $150,000 per year per contract for on-call service.
Thank you, Chairman. Oftentimes I've come to the board and we've talked about the contract that we have with Caterpillar, that is a Sourcewell-based contract. It's kind of like a state contract. It's something that is bid nationwide, and I believe we get a fair price from Caterpillar on that. Recently, we bought a generator for one of these repeaters that I talked about that's up on Mount Ord that we needed replaced because it powers not just the ring gauges but some of the sheriff telemetry. And they were very competitive and actually were the low bidder on that one, and I was surprised to find that out. But nonetheless, even though Caterpillar is I think a strategic partner for the county, we need competition when we go out to repair equipment. Recently, we started up a weekly report that shows us the number of heavy equipment that is down and when it's expected to come up. And we had a couple of items that were critical for us that we really didn't have a date when somebody thought it would get repaired, both because we couldn't do it in-house and the one single vendor that we had wasn't offering a date to repair. So that triggered this action item to bring to the board something that says, can we find other vendors? Can we have these contracts ready to go? Can we cover the whole county? And not that we would use these vendors to the not to exceed $150,000. It's not that we're going to use them all the time, but we need to have some vendors that we can rely on besides the single source that we have today. Oftentimes, our staff our fleet services group is short-staffed. They may have half the team or even a third of the team. We have vacancies, and oftentimes it's things that we could repair if we were fully staffed, but right now we're not fully staffed. And right now, Caterpillar is busy, and so we need to take some action. And the action is there's to look for multiple sources that we assign one region of the county each. We'd like to have 3 vendors, and that we would call the first vendor. It's a cost and convenience contract where we call the first lowest cost vendor and ask them, can you come out here? They say no, then we go to the next one. And the first call would go to the one that's low cost for that region. It's something new for us, and if it works, we'll of course improve it over time. But it's some action that we need to take to make us more reliable in the work that we provide during routine maintenance as well as emergency maintenance.
Thank you, Homero. Supervisor Humphrey?
I have no questions, Mr.
Supervisor
Chair.
Klein?
So Homero, I think this leads in, for me, it leads into a bigger issue, and that is our mechanics. And so when we start looking at needing, not that we want to, but we need to look for outside help in the mechanic field, is there any way we would ever be to the point where we would have our own mechanics trained and available to the extent we need them to take this place?
That's a good question. And soon you'll see a board item come to you. One of the things that we've been thinking of this at the 40,000 foot level, if you will. And so one of the conclusions that we came to was go something like this. If we wanted to repair an automobile, a Ford truck, there's probably 20, 30 places in this county we can go to repair a Ford truck today. Okay? And they would give us good service, and it's competitive. Okay? If we want to repair a 10-wheel dump truck, there's very few places we can go to. So the need for mechanic, when we talk about mechanics for Gila County and probably for many of the rural counties in Arizona, is for heavy equipment mechanics. So we're going to be bringing to the board a progression plan that takes our entry-level mechanics, and if they get the proper training, and we have the training selected, and it's nationwide training, and it's not something that's going to go away, they can find their way to being a senior mechanic, but it would require for them to be competent in heavy equipment maintenance. Okay? And it would be something that's not subject to whether I like the person or don't like the person. If they meet these training requirements, they will progress in a number of years to a senior mechanic, both to retain folks as well as interest people in the job that we have. And that's one of the things that we'll be looking at. Our team actually can repair 10-wheel dump trucks. They're not Caterpillars, okay? And talking with the team, I asked them, can we repair a transmission for a 10-wheel dump truck? We can. We can do that. And we can do the heavy maintenance on 10-wheel dump truck. Do we have the time to do it? That's a different question, okay? On the Caterpillars, it's a little different. We're not as well equipped to do that, but part of the training is to get them to learn how to repair our Caterpillar equipment. And I know Caterpillar is very jealous with that information and holds it, but we can find a way to do that, and that's the purpose of that progression plan that we would like to bring to the board.
You know, I look at these figures, you know, $150,000 for a year. It's a lot of money. And so I don't know our shop mechanics well enough to know if we have the interest here in Gila County that someone would want to take and go on with the education and training it would take to get there. But I'm all for putting money into our people that we have in-house. But thank you, Homer.
Okay. Thank you, Homero. Appreciate that. And with that, I'll call for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the advertisement for request for proposal number 110623 on-call heavy truck and equipment service with a not-to-exceed amount of $150,000 per year, contract as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Homero. Information discussion on item M. Action to approve intergovernmental agreement number 100723 between Gila County and Tonto Basin School District number 33, which authorizes the purchase of fuel from Gila County and allows parking of the school buses at the county road yard in Pumpkin Center.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to, with your permission, Chairman, just mention a umbrella kind of thought around the last two items that I just talked about. both items, we go out and take money out of our pocket and hire somebody to bring a valuable service to us, and we pay them. Both items included the thought of, can we do that ourselves? And so when we approached J.E. Fuller, one question that we asked them was, can we join you when you go out on these trips? And besides, if anybody were to read the report, you would get a lesson on how to repair rain gauges just with the report that's in the package, okay? And so we can learn even from that if we wanted to. But yes, they say yes, they're 100% behind that. They don't want to help us to do the simple stuff. They want to help us with the complicated stuff, the engineering type of value that they would bring to the equation. On the second item, even though we have up to 150,000, I hope we don't spend up to 150,000. That's the hope. But if we need it and nobody else is doing it and our equipment is down, then we should spend it. But at the same time, we have this progression plan where we focus on heavy equipment maintenance. And both of them is to make ourselves more self-reliant. We rely on ourselves instead of necessarily others. I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't lost in the board items. Okay, Chairman, if you're okay, I'll proceed then with the IGA, with Tonto Basin Unified School District number 33, which is about offering them fuel from our fueling station in Tonto Basin, as well as allowing them to park their school buses inside the Tonto Basin County Road Yard. So the IGA incorporates both of those items in it. And so we have fuel in many places of the county, and we offer this service of school districts being able to use fuel as well as fire districts from our fueling stations. The way we sell fuel to them is we buy fuel based on a oil information system, oil OPIS, I forget the middle term. It's a commodity way of pricing oil. It's different fuels, and it's used all across the United States. And they print out that value every day. What we've asked our vendors to do is, you deliver fuel to us this week, use the Monday 8 o'clock OPIS commodity price for fuel for that week. And so they deliver that, and they charge us a delivery and an overhead fee. It ranges anywhere from 10 to 35 cents per gallon based on where it's located and the size of the tank. Because if it's located in Payson, it's easy to get to, and Payson and Star Valley Road Yard has a large tank, so when they show up, they deliver a lot of fuel. When they deliver to Young, it's a little different distance and more rugged, and the tank in Young is smaller, so the price varies based on a competitive bid that we went out and got from them and made a decision on which one to select. And on top of that, on a different line item on the invoice that we get from our fuel supplier, he puts down all the taxes, okay, including the HERF tax. So all the taxes are including on a separate line item, and that some of that is the cost of fuel to us. On top of that, we add 18 cents a gallon Gila County overhead. And the overhead includes that we have at least a half a person doing the fuel maintenance for us. And of course, there's the maintenance and the capital involved in buying fueling stations, repairing them, and replacing them. And that 18 cents covers that. And so when we build Tonto Basin Unified School District, it would include what we were invoiced by the vendor, plus the 18 cents overhead cost on the part of Gila County. And we do that with everyone. And our fueling stations are normally have a better availability than you would get commercially. In some places they're open basically around the clock. In other places they're more limited hours, but they're open. They would be open to the school that need it on an emergency basis as well. So with that, I would like to ask your approval of this IGA with Tonto Basin Unified School District.
Thank you, Homero. Supervisor Humphrey.
Did we have an agreement with them in the past on fuel? We have had, hadn't we?
Yes, the first agreement was in 2004.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's fine. So this isn't something we're adding, we're just kind of upgrading and going forward with.
Extending.
Okay, appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Supervisor Clark.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Homero. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, make the motion to approve intergovernmental agreement number 100723 with Tonal Basin School District number 33 as presented.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Homero.
Thank you.
Item N, 4N, information, discussion, action to approve amendment number 1 to professional services contract number 072622 with Stephen B. Smith, PE, to increase the contract by $20,000 for a total contract amount of $259,200 and extend the contract end date to December 31st, 2023 for solid waste management services. Good afternoon, Melanie.
Good afternoon, Chairman Stephen Christensen and supervisors. This item is to amend our professional services or engineering services for the Gila County landfills. Last year on December 6th, a contract was awarded to Stephen Smith that includes routine monitoring and reporting for both landfills, the Russell Gulch landfill and the Buckhead Mesa landfill. County landfills required registered engineers for monitoring and reporting projects, monitor and reporting and project oversight. The original amount of Stephen Smith's contract was $239,000, which included regular routine groundwater monitoring, methane monitoring, and several components of the Russell Gulch landfill expansion, Cell A. The contract covered pre-construction field activities, construction oversight, drainage, and CQA reports, and ultimately the approval from ADEQ. The original construction for the Cell 3A expansion was planned to be completed in 100 days, and I'm sure I sound like a repeating record. The project underwent 2 design changes and a 100-year rainstorm. The expansion project began January 2023, and 100 days from that was May 10th, 2023. Healy County received ADQ approval on Cell 3A on November 16th. That was about 6.5 months later. And during the project, the engineering staff was required on-site activities. They were reviewing project material like protective cover and liners, riprap, and they had to review several preliminary as-built and then the final as-built. And so basically, this $20,000 extra is for that time between May 5th or May 10th to the actual ADEQ approval of Cell 3A on November 16th. We would increase the contract by $20,000, and the total contract would be $259,200. One of the things I wanted to point out is that our engineering team, they sent the final CQA reports and final as-built to ADEQ on November 13th, and it took ADEQ 3 days to approve the expansion Cell 3A, and I think that was absolutely remarkable. So to sum up, actually I kind of already summed up that the original contract was $239,000, and we're going to increase it by $2,000 for additional oversight for the Russell Gulch 3A project, and that's all. Sorry.
That's all?
Yeah. Well, actually, we're gonna. I don't know how I got a little nervous. I think I've been talking about the landfill a little bit too much lately. But also, Stephen Smith's contract has three 1-year renewal options for routine landfill groundwater and methane monitoring for both Heath County landfills. And we plan to be back in January for a contract renewal. And there's a few things planned for next year. So we have the Buckhead Mesa landfill expansion. We have to do a feasibility study, as well as a pond remediation in Buckhead Mesa, and a fill sequence plan for both landfills. And those will be added to the contract before we come back in January. And so the department is really just hoping to finish up the Russell 3A expansion project and then move forward with the next projects for next year. And by increasing the date to December 31st opposed to December 6th, which is tomorrow, it'll give our engineers enough time to get us all of their invoicing back to us, and we can get them paid correctly on this contract before we move on. So
Okay, great. Thanks, Melanie. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, the landfills are yours to operate, so I don't think you can talk about them too much. Thank you very much for your interest, and thank you very much for all that you've been able to accomplish. And also, hats off, thank you very much for a great ribbon cutting. You did a great job of arranging that as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have no questions.
Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good job, Melanie, and good job on that ribbon cutting. That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. With that, I'll call for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve amendment number 1 to professional services contract number 072622 with Stephen B. Smith, P.E., to increase the contract by $20,000 as presented.
And I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4O, information, discussion, action to approve economic development agreement number 112123 between Gila County and the Miami Genesis Economic Development Board in the amount of $2,000 to support the small town Christmas event to be held on December 16th, 2023, which the board is determined to be for the benefit of the public. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, they do a great job, and I've attended this in the past, and every child that shows up got a book one year, and they do nice little things. So, you know, it's not much educational, but all of the children that do show up do get something out of it. It's a Christmas spirit. It's doing something for the town, and I think it's money well spent.
Supervisor Klein.
Oh, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. So with that, Ollie, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve economic development agreement number 112123 with Miami Genesis Economic Development Board in the amount of $2,000, which the board has determined to be for the benefit of the public.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. And moving on to item 5, which is our consent agenda item list. Is anyone, Supervisor Humphrey, would you care to remove any items off of the consent agenda item and discuss them separately?
I do not. Thank you.
Supervisor Klein, I'll ask you the same question.
I'm good.
And I'm good as well. I did want to point out, though, that we have a couple of appointments buried in the consent agenda, and I appreciate our volunteers. Northern Gila County Range Commission, we have a couple new appointments there. That's really great. Thank you for those that have been serving. Gila County Cooperative Extension, we have a couple more for that. Thank you for serving on that. So with that, I will call for a motion.
Is it mine?
I think so.
Well, I guess I'm...
No, okay, it's mine. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 5A through 5I.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, moving on, call to the public. Number 6, at any time, the public will have the opportunity to speak before the board. No action can be taken on any of the comments. James, are you making a motion for anything? No. Just, you're good. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry. We've all been sitting a long time. I get it. I get it. Okay, so is there anyone here in Globe that wishes to speak to the board on the on this item, on the public call to the public? Cassandra, anyone? No. Lisa, do we have someone?
Yes, I have one person on 2 different subjects.
Okay, please come forward and state your name. Please try and hold your comments to 3 minutes per topic or less, please.
All right, thank you. Angela Godak, 214 North Mountain View Road, basically Star Valley, I guess you could say. Good morning, afternoon. Thank you for hearing our concerns in Gila County. Appreciate that, Board of Supervisors. The first thing, real short, is the Round Valley people were here a while ago, and it's something I've been concerned about for them. I talked to some of them didn't even know about a raw sewage issue that's supposedly coming out of the south end of the reservation. I have seen it. I've seen pictures of it flowing down a stream. I have not seen the tank that it's dumping into, but I heard there is feces floating at the top of that. I don't know what's been done about that. I saw this about 5 months ago. And I heard there was a little something being done with EPA, but it was soon dropped. So I let them know about it, and I'm just saying that you'll probably hear more about this in the future. So anyway, that's all I need to say about that, okay? My second item is I'm representing the Gila County Election Integrity Group. We are active, we are growing, and our main concern is that we want to ensure that the voter rolls are clean, that the process is transparent, and that we have every legal vote counted when election times come about. We have just started an extensive canvass of the homes in Payson. It will soon start in Globe also and the other parts of the county. Just last week, we went out 2 days. We went to probably 30 homes, but a lot of those people weren't home. So out of approximately 20 voters that we contacted, we showed anomalies in about 1 out of 4 of them. There were concerned peoples in those homes. We had 3 glaring problems that could be considered illegal. And then 1 more that showed to be voting in the voter rolls in the 2018 and 2020 general election. That person, there's a problem there because that person belonged to a religious group for over 50 years that does not allow voting. Also, that person died in 2015, according to their family member, and they voted in 2018 and 2020. There's a problem. Again, we're just wanting to make sure our voter rolls are cleaned up. There's no tendency for a fraud to occur. We are canvassing and doing this work. We should not have to be the ones that prove that these voter rolls have some problems, but we're doing it, okay? But we will be holding the department's feet to the fire, who should be responsible for making sure that these things are not happening. So anyway, that's all I needed. I just wanted to give you a little food for thought for your Christmas vacation. I hope you have a wonderful Merry Christmas, and we also wish you a very Happy New Year, and we'll see you when the meetings start up again. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Angela. All right, and now we're to the portion of the meeting where...
Mr. Chair, we can
yes.
We can comment against criticism, and I was just wondering if there was written proof about the person whom passed and voted in Gila County.
We are waiting for an affidavit from that family member. The person is in California, and we are going to obtain an affidavit from that person, who is the daughter of the person who died.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate it, because we can comment to criticism, and that's criticism, and if I'm going to get criticized, it's not that we may not need to do something, but I want to see something in writing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Klein, do you have anything you'd like to add?
If I can, Jessica, I want to ask her about the sewage deal. That's in my district. I need a contact.
Chairman, members, supervisors, you just can't have a discussion.
Yeah. Angela, can you leave Lisa your phone number and I'll get a hold of you? Thank you.
Yeah, it's on the paperwork.
Okay,
Sorry.
perfect. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, good. And I don't have any further comments on that. We'll just go to item number 7, where we open up to the Board of Supervisors and County Manager to give a brief summary of current events. I'll turn it over to James first.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
few things, Mr. Chairman, there were a couple things today. One, we had a lengthy discussion with the Cooperative Extension. Mr. Sabelli has found a solution for that. It'll be coming approval for funding for the Cooperative Extension in January. So wanted to let you know and be aware of that we are moving forward. Want to thank Marion Heatherly. Miss Heatherly is filling in with the clerk of the board's department, and appreciate her sacrifice. And I know she's retired, but she's come and helped us, and since she's here in the meeting, thank you for what you do. I just wanted to say that I attended the Russell Gulch ribbon cutting, and just 3 words: impressive and thank you. To both Mr. Vela and Ms. Mendez. And I wanted to recognize Supervisor Klein. Supervisor Klein has been, from the Coalition of Arizona and New Mexico Counties, has recognized Supervisor Woody Klein as the Arizona Supervisor of the Year for 2022. The award recognized the county supervisor that has gone above and beyond supporting efforts in the public lands arena and acting as an advocate for counties, ranchers, and farmers and citizens as we navigate continued changes with the federal government and numerous federal agencies. So if I could, I'm not an official president, I don't represent the coalition, but
Thank you, James.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's not. Yeah. Good. Can you see it, Kathy? You need closer. Can you see that far? You need closer. I can see. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Supervisor
Yeah.
Klein, for representing.
Thank you
Gila
for bringing
County.
it, James.
And finally, just want to wish everyone happy holidays. And thank you to you as a board and all county staff and everyone involved with Gila County, the best and merriest of holidays for each of us. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Supervisor Humphrey.
First of all, I would like very much to welcome Terry Links back to being my assistant. We worked together over 5 years, and she took a little leave, but I'm very happy that she is back to help me with the things we do to help the people of Gila County. So thank you very much for sitting back and helping me fight this fight that we do. So thank you very much. I attended the Russell Gulch landfill ribbon cutting. What a great job of staff cleaning up the mess that we had and being able to go forward all the way, and the forward thinking to 2032. That's a great thing. Attended a APS energy update meeting at the Bullion Plaza. I will hold a Tonto Basin public meeting this evening at 5. I'll hold a Roosevelt community meeting Monday the 11th at 1 o'clock, and that will be at the Baptist Church on the top of the hill. I'll be on KQSS radio 6 p.m. on Monday the 11th, and I'll hold a Gila community meeting on Saturday, December 16th at 9 a.m. at the Gila Community Center. And I would like to throw a deal out there that I was reading the Payson paper, and they were talking about Supervisor Klein being a Republican, and they named me as a Democrat. They are very, very wrong in that. I've been a Republican all my life, and so I don't appreciate them at all for throwing that in there for whatever reason they did. And so other than that, Mr. Chair, I have nothing else.
Thank you, Supervisor. I did notice that and was a bit shocked by it. I mean, there's bad things you can call people. That's the worst. Supervisor Klein.
Sorry about that, Tim. Hopefully they're lined out now. I'm not even sure how they come up with
I don't know why you should be apologizing for the paper, but
you know. Especially since we both, I think when we got on the board, it was the first time all three sitting supervisors were Republicans. Yeah. In the history of Gila County.
yeah, they know that for the reason behind
Oh, yeah.
they did what they did is, to me, not accidental, but not needed.
So anyway, I was at the ribbon cutting ceremony at the landfill. It's really good to see a project like that come to an end, and Homero and Melanie and all the departments have done an awesome job in that, putting that together, and now they're tuned up. We can get on with Buckhead Mesa, do it again here pretty quick. So that's good, but they did an awesome job. Really good turnout. Kind of a cold day for Globe up there that day, but it was really nice to see that. And other than that, I don't believe I had anything else. And after today, I think my December's kind of open for the rest of the month, so I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. Of course, I was honored to be at the landfill ribbon cut as well. It was a little chilly, but it's just so great to see a project come together. And I really appreciate all of the people that are leaders in our county, all of the workers that we have. They all work well together. I mean, I'm just so proud of Gila County. I just think we can boast as one of the best, if not the best county in Arizona in many, many ways. And so I appreciate all of that. Our next meeting actually is January 2nd, if you didn't know. So we're off for the rest of the year as far as meetings go. So I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Just enjoy the holiday time. Take time to enjoy it. It comes and goes so quickly. So if there's nothing else, gentlemen,